And now, introducing the savage of corned beef and cabbage, the Conway Twitty of Lucky Charm City, the thought of Jameson shots. He's magically delicious. He is Glenn Clark.
You went right to thought. Jeez.
The rhyme with shots.
I feel like there should have been a few steps along the way.
I gave you Conway Twitty.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Good morning. It is Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn. He is Paul. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I did for a second think about putting green on this one, and I'm like, I'm not going out anywhere.
Is that yellowish greenish on your Batman?
Oh, there is that. That wasn't a thought at all. No,
Switch that mic cover right there.
I'm good. I used to. This is not a joke. I used to keep. What was the Ryan Reynolds, Anna Faris movie? Just Friends? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
I loved that particular film.
I saw that on Thanksgiving Day.
That's okay in the theaters.
Yes.
I
My
guess.
sisters wanted to go.
Because there was sort of a Christmassy thing to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like they got stuck at Christmas time.
Yeah.
I think it was a tremendous motion picture, by the way. I'll stand by that. By the way, I watched The Adam Project the other day.
For sure.
It was fine. It was fine. It was it was pleasant. I enjoyed it. But yeah, like everybody else, I love Ryan Reynolds and I loved Just Friends. What year would this have been? I was
05.
05, right. So I want to say St. Patrick's 06. I had to do an appearance for 105.7 on the Thursday morning. Like we were doing. I want to say we were doing the Ed Norris show from Colada's. Maybe was where we were doing it, or one of those establishments.
No way.
Yeah, right. Wherever it was one of those joints. And I just showed up wearing, I don't know, probably a polo and khakis or whatever. And I remember my promotions director looking at me and being like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I'm here to do the show." She's like, "No, it's St. Patrick's Day. What the F? You're supposed to be wearing green." Now, I don't know why she cared so bad, like looking back on it, but at the time, I was convinced that I was going to get fired for not wearing green. Like, legitimately convinced. Her panic level said to me, "You are no longer going to be employed by Infinity Radio because you didn't wear green to a St. Patrick's Day appearance. How stupid are you?"
Did you go get some face paint or something?
She frantically calls back to the station and is like, "Who's coming down here? Go scour the closet to see if we got any giveaways that were green." And they were like, "Okay." And they come back with a T-shirt, and it's a Just Friends. We were doing a giveaway related to Just Friends being available on DVD at that point, and it's a Just Friends Friend Zone green T-shirt. So she slaps it on me. She says, "How dare you?" But I've don't worry, I've saved your ass. And again, at the time, I'm thinking she saved my employment because that's how seriously she was treating this. And I saved that effing Just Friends T-shirt. It was like the only green T-shirt I had. To this day, I still have it in my closet. So this morning, this is 16 years that we're talking about. This morning, I go to the closet thinking to myself, well, maybe I'll wear a white undershirt and or a long sleeve undershirt, and I'll wear the Just Friends T-shirt over it, and that way I'll wear green. And I seriously had a conversation with myself. I'm like, "Glenn, who are you as a human? Like, what are we doing with our lives? You're not doing anything. You're going to work, you're watching basketball games in the afternoon, going to the gym, and then going home. Why in the bloody F are you concerned about whether or not you're wearing green today? Like, what is wrong with you?"
I was at the gym this morning, and yes. I was wearing Orioles gear, and I'm looking around, I'm like, everybody's wearing green. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's St. Patty's Day, and now I'm wearing Ravens gear. I care not for these things.
My wife will give me crap. My wife will give me crap about it. Like later today when she sees me, she'll be like, "You didn't wear green today?" I'm not doing anything. But she's got the kids all decked out in their green. They set up, not kidding, leprechaun traps.
Nice.
Leprechaun traps. We are treating this as if it's like Easter or Thanksgiving at our house.
What is it? If you don't see the leprechaun, say yeah.
Not bad. Very big deal. But happy St. Patrick's Day, and more importantly, a happy first day of the NCAA Tournament, which is, of course, one of my favorite days of the year. We got a lot to do on the program today. Today's show brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm going to be there tomorrow at noon. Again, if you missed it, we got a special start time for tomorrow's show. We will be on 9 to 11 a.m. tomorrow. And then I'm racing out of here to get down to the FanDuel Sportsbook in order to hang out with Rodney Elliott and watch the early games with you tomorrow afternoon. I got one bet for sure that I know I'm making. I know I'm making tomorrow, and then I'll listen to advice from others about other bets I can make while I'm down there. They got a lot going on. They are opening not just today, but tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to midnight. The FanDuel Sportsbook is open for the first weekend of the tournament, 9 a.m. to midnight. They've got 61 and soon to be 63 24/7 self-service kiosks. So after tonight's games, and by the way, some of those, an overtime game pushes another tip-off back. We get to the point where, hey, I don't know if you noticed, last night's game went until past midnight. So you're sitting there after tonight's game's end, and you're like, Sportsbook's closed. I want to put in bets for tomorrow. No problem. You just walk up to one of the 24/7 self-service kiosks and get your bets in. It's as simple as that. And everyone who is a Live Rewards member, and so if you're not, you can sign up for Live Rewards, and then if you make a $50 or more bet on any NCAA tournament game through the national championship game, $50 or more on any individual game, you can register that bet to win a $500 bracket bonus. So if you make a long shot bet, right? Let's just say you bet Wright State to win outright. I don't know what the odds are, but I'm guessing it's something like, maybe I should do that. I'm gonna end up sounding like an ass when I say this. I'm gonna guess it's plus thousands on Wright State to pull off a stunner of stunners after they advanced in the first four last night. You bet on that, you collect hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on your bet. You can still register that bet to win another $500 bracket bonus. 10 of you are winning $500 bracket bonuses from the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. It is really as simple as that. And again, we will see you tomorrow with great giveaways. It is the place to be. Plus 1,600 is where Wright State is. So, yeah, you'll be making a lot of money on that $50 bet. We'll see you tomorrow, 12 to 4, in the FanDuel Sportsbook. Coming up today, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, is going to join us. We'll talk about what the Ravens have done. We will talk about his new book, Playmakers, and other things going on in the world of the NFL. We meant to do this early in the week. This past Monday was the 25th anniversary of Coppin State's stunning upset of South Carolina, only the second, I believe at the time, 15-2 upset in NCAA tournament history. There is a documentary now available on ESPN Plus called On and Coppin. Get it, like On and Hoppin', On and Coppin? Took me a second because I'm stupid. I'm like,
I never would have gotten
it. I legitimately sat there for myself. I'm like, On and Coppin, what? I honest to God, it took me a second. And then I needed to hear it's Snoop Pearson who is the oh God, why my brain? She is the
started your celebrations early today.
No, it's just I'm telling you, there is something going on. I need to go to a doctor. Like there is something going on. I got a cognitive issue that's happening. It's very concerning. She is the narrator. Oh my God, she's the narrator of the documentary. And at one point, she says it exactly that way. She's like, and they were on and copping. I'm like, oh, I get it. Dummy. Anyway, Danny Singletary, who hit the icing three that ended things, that put it away in the final minutes, former Coppin star, will join us, share his reflections on the 25th anniversary of that stunning upset. Speaking of basketball, current Yale star Jalen Gabiddon was born in Baltimore. He's a Glenelg alum, and he's a genius because he's at Yale. Not only is he getting ready for the NCAA tournament and their game against Purdue tomorrow, but on top of that, he's also literally launching a sports tech app and is looking to become a media he's just a genius. We'll talk to him about all of those things. It's very incredible. And also today, Stan the Fan's going to stop by the studio. It's been too long. We'll talk to him about a little bit of everything. As he's going to come hang out with us in the 11 a.m. hour. So busy day on GCR. Remember yesterday when I was talking about you know what? Hang on. Before I do that, we will talk about the Ravens, but I want to say thank you. We're filled. Thank you. It took you all long enough. It took me having to beg and plead and the whole thing. It took Paul having to fill out his first bracket in 100 years. He didn't know how to fill out brackets anymore.
Thank the zombie Kyle Ottenheimer for lighting the fire.
Yeah, right. He pushed you. You had to do it. filled. Thank you. 50 of you got in. I think technically it's actually 51, but one of you, I do not know who you are, and I have no record of you paying, and I've tried reaching out 3 times, and you haven't responded, so I'm going to end up kicking you out. That's the way it's going to go.
Did you get my bracket name?
Yes. Paul is very excited about he's got to, if you missed it yesterday, Paul's penance for losing our draft bet is he's got to go to the Limp Bizkit show. Did you talk to your friends about it yesterday?
I reached out to a guy this morning. I'm waiting for him to respond. And if he doesn't go, I'll reach out to the other guy.
Is one of them the guy that I know?
Josh Murr?
Yeah, he seems like the type that would go to a Limp Bizkit show.
Yes.
I'm not trying to cast aspersions. I like Josh, nice guy.
He's got an interesting taste in music.
He seems like the type of guy that'd be willing to go to a Limp Bizkit show with you.
I think he likes to go to rock concerts. He's going to see Shinedown with me at UMBC.
It's a different thing. I have no qualms, right? Like I'm not I probably wouldn't spend my money at this point on going to see Shinedown again.
Oh,
but
I really enjoy Shinedown.
Don't get me wrong. I've enjoyed quite a few Shinedown tunes over the years, and I've told you before. I famously went and saw them open for Tantric at the Otto Bar once upon a time.
With like 30
where there
people.
Was maybe not even that, because there was a blizzard, and for some reason they still played the show. And it was the first time they'd ever done their Lynyrd Skynyrd cover. He literally was just like, I've been thinking about doing this. Since there's nobody here, I'm going to mess around with it tonight and see how I feel about it. But I have no qualms about you going to see Shinedown. There's a big difference between that and going to the Limp Bizkit show, where not only are you going to be miserable, there's a half a chance you're going to end up with syphilis. Like, it's just...
I think more than that.
Yeah, I would say it's more like a 2/3 chance that you're going to end up with syphilis from just attending the event. But that's Paul's penance that he has to pay, and so in honor of that, he went with Chocolate Starfish as his bracket name, which I appreciated a great deal. You all filled it up. Thank you to those of you that got in. I had the final 2 spots this morning claimed by our buddy, not a different Tim in Bel Air. We got multiple Tim in Bel Airs, but another Tim in Bel Air, Bill Stecca. Thank you to you for getting in, and former NFL punter Travis Baltz got in. I love Travis. That's one of my favorite people. Thank you for getting in. Travis was with the Jets after his career in Maryland ended. He's one of my favorite dudes. Appreciate him getting in. So many of you got in. Our buddy Kyle Andrews got in. Matt Torper. I'll go through the whole list to say thank you to all of you. Brian Powell, Caden, Matt Pine, Ian Schultz, John Proctor. John Proctor, you know the problem. I'm looking at you. Paul Moss, Eric Moss, Carly Henderson, Tim Russell, Jeff Turner, Kyle Ottenheimer, Elizabeth Monteleone, Doug Gambinas, Chris Ruling from Grade 8's Memorabilia, Adelaide, who's just a big fan of cats and found out that we were supporting Show Your Soft Side and got in. I love that. Will Steele, John from Little Rock, Andrew Stecca, Ryan Chell, Jeff R., Susan Johnson, Ryan Flanders, Nick Kelly, KZ got in, Josh Sroka from Section 336, Dave Rosenfield, Ben from San Francisco, Matt Crow, Chris Vaxakis, Verge, Matt Torper, Conan Colgane, Aaron Oster from Simply the Bets got in, Josh D., Simon Habdamariam, who does delicious pizza, the Baltimore Pizza Company. Dean Tejada from Thread Level Midnight. Thank you, Dean. Great dude. Love everything he does. I can't say who that is. Patrick Davis got in. There is literally someone who I cannot say for legal reasons. I cannot tell you that this person got in, and I almost gave it away, right? I legitimately almost read the name, just forgetting about it. Tracy Henderson, Kadena Henderson, Paul Valley got in. John Colson, Pressbox's Chief Grand Poobah. Tim from Bel Air, the other Tim from Bel Air, Ivan Lutwin, I mentioned Kyle Andrews, Travis Baltz, Lisa Green, Bill Stecca, and my own father, Tom Clark, all got in.
Tom Clark, that's a solid name.
It is a solid name, Clark. Isn't it? It really, there's an authority that goes along with a name like that.
Ryan Flanders, if it's the same Ryan Flanders, I'm thinking
Bel Air guy, so that would make sense.
I worked with him at the Abingdon Target way back in the day.
I don't know about his work history, but he
around the same time Just Friends came out.
All right, that's time-wise, that probably checks out. I love Ryan. Ryan's one of my buddies for a long time. And I think he won he either won one of these or one of our bowl pick'ems. So I'm nervous about that. But thank you to all of you who got in. We are going to be donating $250 to Show Your Soft Side. That's what I like. That's the part of this that matters, is that we can make a nice donation to a wonderful charity, and we're going to be partnering up with them. I'm going to have tickets to give away to Project Runway, and we will be I don't know if they've announced it yet or not, but I mean maybe I can we're going to be very much involved with Project Runway coming up. It's going to be a very a great night, and a lot of significant Baltimore sports figures are going to be taking part in it. Unfortunately, I happen to know that Ryan Jensen is going to be there. It would have been really nice if he had come back to Baltimore, But it is what it is.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I completely understand. So thank you to all of you. I don't have to spend any more time begging you to fill our bracket contest any longer. That's out of the way. Now, things to discuss today. 1, I am not telling you that I'm completely fine with where the Ravens are in their front seven yesterday, but I certainly am less concerned after they added Za'Darius Smith last night. Now, there's still the part where we need to see Za'Darius Smith be on the field, and we need to make sure. I'm in a weird spot related to his back because he played. He played in the postseason. He came back. There is no reason for me to sit here and say, well, but that doesn't mean anything. It's a back injury. I don't know. But I think we all get a little bit antsy when we talk about things like back injuries that kept someone out for the overwhelming majority of a season. Hopefully the fact that he came back and played is proof that all is good, that everything is fine, that he's an athlete, his back's maybe a little bit different than yours and mine. I hope that's the case. I also hope the Ravens use him a bit more appropriately than when he was first a Raven. And the Packers figured out there's something he does really well. Go let him do that. Go let him pressure quarterbacks. And I hope that Tyus Bowser is healthy to start the season, and because they trust Tyus Bowser so much on the other side of the field, they are more willing to allow someone like a Za'Darius Smith to simply go after quarterbacks. I don't think that it would completely preclude me from the possibility of drafting another edge rusher. I treat edge rushers almost the way that they treat cornerbacks, which is you just can't have enough good ones. I also think that at this point, I would still prioritize defensive line, center, and still cornerback in the draft with the acknowledgement they could still potentially do other things before free agency is over, or really before we get to the draft, more importantly.
I fully believe that if he's there at 14, they're taking Jordan Davis. That with the moves they've made, I think that's the guy. I'm inclined
to say that's the guy that I'm most interested in at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm inclined to say that, but the corners are so thought of, the Sauce Gardners, the Derek Stingleys, the Andrew Booths, even Trent McDuffie from out at Washington, that if one of them were to be there, given what they went through a year ago, also keep in mind both Tavon Young and Anthony Averett are now gone.
Yeah. Did Tavon Young sign with somebody else?
Not yet, but he's not on the Ravens.
Right.
They would have to re-sign him.
But he could still be back.
He could be, but
But he's not right now.
Anybody could be,
right.
You know what I mean? Anybody that's a free agent could be a Raven at this point. The roster as constructed at the moment, I do think cornerback matters.
Mm-hmm.
I am obsessed with Jordan Davis because, my God, look at it, right? How could you possibly not be obsessed with it? But as I said yesterday, if there's one position that I have faith in the Ravens finding without using a first-round pick, it's defensive linemen. Their history, yes, Haloti Ngata was a first-round pick, but Michael Pierce was undrafted. Brandon Williams was a third-round pick. They have history. We think Justin Madubuike is a player. I'm not trying to say that he's a star or anything along those lines, but we think he's a player. Derek Wolfe did confirm yesterday with a weird back and forth with Jonas Schaefer that he is not leaning towards retirement, that he is planning on coming back, so throw him back into the mix. I'm obsessed with, of course I'm obsessed with Jordan Davis, because what's not to be obsessed about? But if the argument is, corner is more pressing because of what they went through a year ago, and because we know that, for example, Marcus Peters probably isn't going to be around forever, I'll listen to the argument of just drafting one more cornerback, especially considering how well these cornerbacks are thought of. But look, there's still time for them to make a couple more moves. It is a bit concerning when you see Josina Anderson's report that they also wanted to bring back Michael Pierce, but it's looking like they're not going to have the money to do that, because I can't fathom Michael Pierce is a ton of money. If Michael Pierce is getting bank at this point, then that's one thing, but it just that seems unlikely that he's going to cost you that much money. And if you're looking at it and saying we don't have the money to do that, that probably means you don't have the money to do J.C. Treader either.
Right.
I can't imagine that J.C. Treader is cheaper than Michael Pierce at this point. So that was a little bit concerning, but given what they've done, I get it. Like if doing the things that you did cost you the opportunity to reunite with Michael Pierce, I'll live. Like I'll live because I think you made 3 on paper good moves. Of course, we have to see how they pan out. So I'm on board with Za'Darius Smith. I think it's a good thing. I obviously have the one reservation about it being a back injury. How can you not have a reservation about that? You have to have a reservation about that. But short of that, my God, do you like the idea of Za'Darius Smith coming back? And clearly 2 years ago, he was an insanely productive pass rusher in Green Bay. His first 2 seasons in Green Bay, he was a monster pass rusher. And I appreciate Pressbox shared a story I wrote a few years ago. It's one of my favorite stories I ever wrote. Like, as far as just stories that I've written, like not stupid columns where I just pontificate, but actually doing like reporting and writing a feature. I wrote a feature a few years back about I did not know when Za'Darius Smith arrived. I just, for whatever reason, hadn't put 2 and 2 together. Oh, I remember at the time I hadn't watched Last Chance U, was the story. So I had no care or concern that he had attended East Mississippi Community College. Like, it just, when he got here and we were talking to him after he got drafted, it wasn't something that mattered to me because I had not viewed Last Chance U. And then I think Kyle in particular kept trying to harp on me to watch Last Chance U after the second season. So I watched it, and of course, like everybody else, was just in love. And then happened to be digging around and seeing that Za'Darius Smith had a relationship with Brittany Wagner, the academic advisor from those seasons of Last Chance U. I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I realized, oh, right, because he went to East Mississippi. And so I ended up going and talking to Za'Darius a lot about that experience, and then had a great conversation with Brittany Wagner, and ended up writing a nice feature about it. And it was one of my favorite features that I've done here at Pressbox. So if you haven't checked that out, Pressbox shared it last night on Twitter at PressboxOnline, and you can go back and read it. Kind of a really cool story about where Za'Darius Smith came from and his own experience. He was not at East Mississippi for the same reason that some other guys were at East Mississippi. Other guys, of course, if you watched the show, were there because they got busted for something. They screwed up. That's why they called it Last Chance U. For him, I think the way that we wrote it was more like First Chance U because he just hadn't played football. Like, he just didn't have the experience in order to be able to get a big-time collegiate offer. He needed to go somewhere and play in order to get that opportunity to go on to Kentucky and now have a great NFL career. So it was a really cool story. Really cool story. I encourage you to go check out. We'll see if there's anything else coming. On the baseball front, rumors continue to percolate related to the Orioles and Carlos Correa. This despite the fact that Mike Elias said the other day that they probably wouldn't be doing that type of thing. I mean, he didn't use Carlos Correa specifically, just basically said, like, multi-year free agents were probably out on. Well, 10 years is a lot of multi-years.
He also said never say never.
Never say never. He did say that. So our buddy Ryan Blake from Utah Street Report writes yesterday he also has a source that's confirmed to him that the Orioles made a 10-year, $300 million offer, which is a little bit different than the number that Raul Ramos threw out. When
300+ million, upwards of 300 million is what he said.
Who?
Ryan. In the article, he said upwards of 300 million.
I think the number was 300.
Okay.
Was exactly, like he said, 10 years, 300 million. Raul Ramos threw out a figure that if, in doing the math, would have been like more like 10 years and $320 million. Right. With the thought all along having been that it would be 10 years, 325, 10 years, 350 would be something about what it would take to get Carlos Correa. That's all minutia. After this Utah Street Report published this, Raul Ramos, the reporter from Con Las Bases Loaded, followed up this saying, I can confirm the offer stands. Remember, when he first reported it, he said it was before the lockout. So we didn't know what the lockout did, an agent switch, all of those things, how it impacted it. He followed up by saying, well, I'm telling you, it's still on the table. This is all very awkward because it ain't Jeff Passan reporting it. Mm-hmm. It ain't Ken Rosenthal reporting it. And I don't want to take anything away from either Raul Ramos or our buddy Ryan Blake. Ramos, of course, being a legitimate reporter, BBWAA member. I mean, he's a true and true reporter. Ryan, I hope he's not offended by this. I'm not trying to knock Ryan, who I like a great deal. He's not a reporter in any stretch of the imagination.
I've written for Utah Street Report in the past.
I'm not trying to. I don't want to knock Utah Street Report either. I like those guys. I like.
Do a good job.
I like Derek a great deal. He's one of my good friends. Andrew's written for Utah Street Report. I mean, but real writers have written for you. I think Todd Karpovich has written for Utah Street Report over the years. Ryan, his job has nothing to do with being a reporter.
Right.
He's telling you he's heard something from someone. I don't doubt that. I'm not questioning Ryan either. I believe that. But as I always say, for example, I believe that Raul Ramos got a certain amount of information. The question then was he planted something? Did someone tell him something to try to drive the market up for Carlos Correa? I always have to ask those questions. Not that I'm doubting him. And I like Raul. I think he's a really good guy. And as I told you, after we had our conversation with him, I found him to be even more credible based on the things that he wanted to talk about and the things that he didn't want to talk about. It lended an additional level of credibility to his reporting, that he wouldn't speculate on things that he didn't know. Said, look, man, here's what I know. I'll talk to you about that. Other things, I'm telling you, I don't know about that. And I'm not just going to speculate for the sake of it. I know this. It's very weird that there is this much out there without there being anything from any of the significant reporters. It's very weird. Not any of the other local reporters, not any of the Dan Connollys or the Rock Kabatkos of the world, not anything from the past. This is Carlos Correa that we're talking about.
And what I think is telling is that these Orioles beat reporters, they haven't even commented on it. They haven't said a word about it in any of their posts. I think Dan Connolly commented to somebody who was in the comment section on one of his articles. Yeah, that ain't happening. But other than that, they haven't put anything out there to even address.
That has anything to do with reporting specifically. Right. And their answer could be, "This is so outlandish. I'm not doing that."
Right.
It's so outlandish, and they wouldn't be wrong. And it's the thing that I keep saying about this over and over again. I'm always going to remain skeptical because we're talking about something so insanely different than anything the Orioles have ever done that we have to be skeptical. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing wrong with any of these guys. I know the Sun has a new Orioles reporter this year whose name I actually think he
Zach
used to
Silver.
No. He used to intern for us. Andy Koska, is that his name? Kafka? I feel so bad. We got to track him down. Who just started, so he wouldn't be the person that we'd be talking about. I am. Maybe it's MLB. Check out Andy Koska. I swear, I'm gonna feel terrible because I'm pretty sure he used to intern for us, and I'm very happy for him. I can't believe he got a job like this, and I want to bring him on and be proud of him, and I just can't remember what his name is.
Andy Kostka. Soon,
yeah.
Orioles for the Baltimore Sun.
Yeah, that's who it is. Thank you. Like Andy, great deal, good kid, really happy for him, awesome. But this wouldn't be his role yet. He's not entrenched in the same way. But I'll bring up Dan Connolly. Dan Connolly, I'm not trying to be dismissive of Rock. Rock works for the team. He doesn't like it when you say that, but we have to acknowledge it. We can't pretend like that's not the case. Mm-hmm. He works for the team. I'm not saying that doesn't mean he doesn't report things or get information, but it's just a different scenario. Because I separate that, Dan Connolly is sort of the godfather of the Orioles beat. He doesn't work for the team. He's been an entrenched reporter for a very long time, and he does a lot of reporting. And so because of that, he's kind of the guy that I look to in these situations. So if Dan Connolly, who of course has heard these same rumors, says, what are we going to do next? Ask me if they're going to sell the team? Ask me if they're going to move the team to Nashville? Like, what are we – we're just – my job is not to chase ghosts. My job is to report on the things that are worthy of reporting on. I can't knock Dan Connolly for that.
Right.
This seems insane. Now, I probably, given his relationships, would have at least run it by somebody and said, hey, this is crazy, right? And gotten the answer to that question.
And maybe he did.
He might have. But if that was the case, I probably would have at some point tweeted it out as a report, as a, hey, I know you guys are all talking about this. I can tell you this ain't happening. From a source, this ain't happening. So it's weird to me. It's weird. It's less weird that Ken Rosenthal or Jeff Passan does not feel the same need to dive in on reports from Cone Las Bases Full and Utah Street Report. Again, with no offense, they got bigger fish to fry. Freddie Freeman was signing last night for a boatload of money with the Dodgers because My God, murderers row. Holy F.
She saved no excuses.
I
anymore.
mean, really don't. Jesus Christ. So I sort of get where, like, they might be busy. They just might not be in a place to be chasing something like that. I don't know. It's just, all of it is weird. It's all very weird. I will continue to work under the assumption that it ain't happening. I will continue to work under the assumption that, that there are elements of truth to all of this, and that maybe even the Orioles made an offer knowing. Because as I keep coming back to, the thing that keeps being the most problematic is, if you're Carlos Correa, you almost certainly want an early opt-out, and if you're the Baltimore Orioles, there's no way you can give an early opt-out. So ultimately, it might very well be the case of they know he's not coming. They made the offer anyway just because, hey, you never know. But they already have their answer. He's not taking an offer like that. And so it's not really worth talking about.
And they got Chris Owings playing shortstop.
They do have Chris Owings. All's good, right? Like, all's good here. No problems in these parts. They got Chris Owings. So I don't know. I'm in a weird place with all of it. You have to address it because Orioles fans are all talking about it. And because I believe these people that are saying the things that they say. I have no reason to doubt them. I guess at some point somebody would say, hey, why don't you go do the reporting yourself? It's not my job, but yeah, sure. If this continues, maybe at some point I need to bark up somebody's tree. Maybe it's something that I try to avoid for a lot of the Maryland coaching search, but finally I got a message about somebody else. I literally got a message from somebody the other day that said, I'm telling you, I've heard blank is going to have a deal done this week. I said, all right, I'm not just going to share that. I'm going to do some reporting. And so I reached out to a source at Maryland who said, I have no reason to believe that this person is a viable candidate for the job. I said, great, not going to share anything about that. So maybe it's time for me to do something like that with the Orioles. I don't know, but it's just weird that it continues to linger. And speaking of Maryland, before we get to our first break, I guess it's a good place for me to step in. Remind you to know the risks. We all love gambling, but you need to know the risks and have a plan before you start gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. The Mike Bray stuff continues to percolate in relation to the University of Maryland. And percolate from a lot of different places. Some of it, I fear, is cheerleading becoming information-driven. And when I say that, what I'm saying is there are people within the basketball world. Mike Bray is a really popular figure. And it's not hard to figure out why. If you watch that game last night and his post-game interview, he's like, I hope they have some Irish whiskey for me on the plane. Like, he wants to go party. He wants to go get lit. He hangs out on the beach in Dewey every summer. And, he's like Gary Williams light in the social media world. And the Gary Williams, of course, those legendary photos of drunk-ass Gary Williams at Dewey Beach, in the social media world might have been a bigger, story
I never
at some
saw
point. Oh, there are plenty of them. Mike Bray's a really popular figure. And really, the part that I can tell you with certainty, he really wants the job. That I have gotten beyond any shadow of a doubt. Mike Bray really wants the job to the point where it feels like it's got to be awkward in Notre Dame. Like, if Glenn Clark, know how badly Mike Bray has been pushing to get this job, they definitely have to know at Notre Dame. And maybe because it's Notre Dame basketball that we're talking about, it's not the end of the world. If he doesn't get the job, he can just go right back and all is forgiven because, look, it's Notre Dame basketball. It's not football. It's not, it's just not that big of a deal. But it's weird. It's weird.
It's like calling up, hey, it's Mike Bray. Just checking to see if you want to interview me.
It's like that. It's of that ilk. I mean, he has gone multiple channels in order to make it clear how badly he wants the job. And I get it. He's from D.C. He's, from DeMatha. It makes all the sense in the world. He literally summers in Dewey. I understand why he wants the job. And he's likable. You see him do interviews like that. He's likable. So he's a very popular figure. And I don't know that because other people in the basketball world know how much Mike Bray wants the job, they haven't started going to bat for him. I'll give you an example. Former George Washington coach Mike Lonergan, good friend of Mike Bray, also part of that circle of coaches. Mike Lonergan's on every social media talking about how Maryland should hire Mike Bray. And I don't know that in basketball circles, because Mike Lonergan is a respected person, that some of that doesn't end up being conflated into making Mike Brey suddenly the leading candidate for a job, because so many basketball people are talking about him as being the right hire. I'm not in love with the idea of hiring somebody that's going to be 63 years old. How can you be in love with that? I've said a couple of times, I acknowledge I think Maryland can do worse. Mike Brey certainly will. I have a friend named Jeremy Huber, who does play-by-play for Georgetown and some other places. Jeremy Huber, who reached out to me recently and said, Maryland's most significant coaches were two coaches who had true skin in the game. Lefty Driesell had something up his ass about beating the rest of the ACC. Duke guy, he wanted to shove it up every single one of them. Gary Williams, of course, was a Maryland guy. The two most successful basketball coaches in Maryland history were guys who had skin in the game, who cared beyond it just being their job. Now, to be clear, Bob Wade also had skin in the game as a Baltimore guy who wanted to prove the Baltimore pipeline and wanted to make it work with Baltimore kids. Obviously, it didn't work out with Bob Wade. But his point is well taken. It's more personal. There's more of a chip on your shoulder to make it work than there would be for the average person who it would just be a job for. And that's the argument that people make about Mark Turgeon, right? Like, he didn't care about Maryland. He cared about the job he had. I don't know if any of that matters. I'll still come back to get a good coach. If Nico Medved makes a run to the Sweet 16 at Colorado State, it might be proof that he's just a hell of a coach. And there are plenty of other guys that are out there that are like that. Go get a damn good coach. But I understand the Mike Brey argument, and certainly understand the DeMathis side of it. Like, you want to open up a pipeline that hasn't existed, Mike Brey is going to open that pipeline up for you. And as a couple people pointed out, if you hire Mike Brey, the story might really be about who his assistant coaches are as you try to build something. I'm not saying no about Mike Brey. I'm not really going to say no about anybody, frankly. I said that all along. Andy Enfield was the guy that I thought was the most practical guy that I would want. I would still, Ed Cooley to me would be a home run, but I get it. Like, we're all picking South Dakota State to beat Providence today. And I just still don't think he's going to leave. If it's Kevin Willard, it's Kevin Willard. I'm not rooting for anybody to get the job. If it's Juan Dixon, it's Juan Dixon. If it's Kim English, it's Kim English. Whoever it is, get the job. I think they can do better than Mike Brey. I think that a younger coach could do better than Mike Brey. But I definitely think they could do worse. And the point that people make about his personality and getting people fired up, I mean, if you watched the game last night, if you stayed up past midnight to watch both overtimes of Notre Dame beating Rutgers, you saw that. You saw why his personality might be a play, and in quite contrast to Mark Turgeon, to get people fired up again about Maryland basketball. Can't guarantee anything. There's definitely a question about what happened in the 4 years leading up to this year for Mike Brey at Notre Dame, where things kind of seem to fall off the cliff. But if it's Mike Brey, it's Mike Brey. Let's go. I'm at that place with the Maryland coaching search. At the place where we want to talk to Mike Florio on this show. Today's show, also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Make the most out of every day in a Toyota RAV4, available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
The newest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le
champion.
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Stay tuned. Your chance to win $1 million is coming up. Probably not from us. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on at GCR on a Thursday edition of the program. I don't know what your plans are for the weekend, but I know they'd be improved with some delicious smoky thigh wings and Guinness grilling sauce from Glory Days Grill. You're just camping out in front of a TV for 4 days. Do it with the smoky thigh wings and the Guinness grilling sauce. If you're looking for somewhere to hang out and watch the games, I would say your neighborhood Glory Days Grill would be a great location for doing that. Of course, glorydaysgrill.com is the website for you to get your order in for the weekend, and it's not just the smoky thigh wings, which are perfection already, and then throw in the Guinness grilling sauce. Of course, with today being St. Patrick's Day, the entire St. Patrick's menu is available for you at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. Easy for me to say. I, of course, talk for a living. And it also includes the corned beef and cabbage. It also includes the Reuben, the Rachel. And it includes the shepherd's pie with the Guinness braised beef. Oh, perfection. GloryDaysGrill.com, again, is the website. Get your order in. Find out about your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. It is the best accompaniment to 4 days of basking in the glory of an NCAA tournament. You see what I did there. It is also the best place to hang out and watch games. You got your own little volume control. That's one of the cool things about Glory Days Grill. At your table, you got your own little volume control, so you can choose which screen you want to listen to right there at the table. It's a very pleasant feature that they offer for you at the neighborhood Glory Days Grill. I would encourage you to go do that. GloryDaysGrill.com, again, is the website. All right, coming up a little bit later on, Stan the Fan's going to join us. Danny Singletary, from former Coppin State star, 25th anniversary this week of that stunning upset over South Carolina back in 1997. And also this morning, we're going to catch up with Jalen Gabiddon from Yale, was born in Baltimore, went to Glenelg, and is now getting ready to face Purdue in the first round of the NCAA Tournament tomorrow. Of course, games getting underway a little bit later on today. Right now, it's been a long time. It's good to welcome back the man behind ProFootballTalk.com. And now he's an author. He's got a book out. It's called Playmakers. He is our friend Mike Florio. He's back with us now here on GCR. Mike, it's Glenn. It's been too long. Thank you for taking the time for me. Congratulations on the book, my friend.
Thank you, Glenn. It's been a crazy week. You know, we specifically picked the first week of free agency for the release of the book because it's our busiest time of the year, maximum audience to sell it to, et cetera. And then I realized, holy crap, we picked the busiest week of the year.
Right. Yeah, you got a lot of work to do.
We were trying to wedge more pizza, or what do they do? They try to put more cheese into the pizza. The pizza is overflowing with cheese.
All right, let's talk about the concept for the book, because I want to have you give away the Tom Brady could have been a Raven story, but I get you want people to buy the book to read about it, so maybe we'll just tease it. When you sat down and said, I'm going to write a book, this feels like a very broad way to go about doing it. What was the idea? What was the thought process behind what you were working on?
Well, and for years I had people telling me, you seem to know a lot about the NFL, you should write a book about it. And I don't want to. I write about the NFL all day, every day. I already have the platform. I don't need to find a publisher. If I have anything to say about the NFL, I can say it at ProFootballTalk.com.
Right.
That's the thing that was built from scratch. It's been around for 20 years. I don't need to write a book. And eventually I just said, well, screw it. I'll explore the possibility to get people to leave me the hell alone. I don't, now I won't have people saying you should write a book, or if they do, I say I already did. Thanks for buying it.
Right.
But the process for nonfiction, you got to find an agent first, and then you got to come up with a concept that the agent then tries to sell to a publisher, and the publisher has to buy the concept, not the manuscript. Thank God you don't have to write it before you try to sell it. You sell the idea, craft the outline, and we went back and forth, and I feel like as much work was put into that phase of the process, figuring out what are we going to do, why are we going to do it, how are we going to do it. And we settled on this idea that we will look at the past 20 years in the NFL, broken down by 10 different categories, although the last one focuses on the future. And then within each of those categories, at least 10 essays that when you focus on the individual story, the anecdote, the controversy, the scandal, whatever it is that's the subject of the chapter, there's some truth about the way the NFL operates that comes through. So if you read the whole thing, and it's structured so you can just flip it open and, well, I want to read this, I want to read that. You don't have to read all of it. You can read some of it. You can read whenever you want. And it was structured a lot like Tim Green's book from 25, 30 years ago, The Dark Side of the Game, where he did a series of essays of similar length about what really goes on in the locker room, what really goes on the field, et cetera. And that ended up being the concept we agreed to. And once it was time to write it, it was just a matter of sitting down, and the thing wrote itself once we had it outlined to the point where we were comfortable with it. So I'm glad it's over, but it's also just beginning. That's the other thing I'm realizing. Release date is not the end. It's just the beginning, even though you've already been going for 2 or 3 years.
Well, now they want you to go sell the book. Now they want you to come, do 1,000, as if you weren't already doing 1,000 radio appearances every week. Now they want you to
now it's like, hey, let's do another one. No.
Right. You're good for a little while.
Yeah.
You're good on that front. We've linked it up on our Twitter account, @GlenClarkRadio, so you can go check it out. Again, Playmakers, How the NFL Really Works, from Mike Florio. Can you give us a tease on the Tom Brady Ravens story that won't give everything away and people can still read about it in the book?
Well, no, I mean, look, there's plenty of nuggets in there of information that either wasn't previously reported or wasn't widely available. And, of course, when Tom Brady becomes the greatest player of all time in NFL history as the 199th pick, there are going to be plenty of people who claim that they saw it coming.
Right.
And Bill Polian has blustered in the past that they had a first-round grade on Tom Brady. Well, why the hell didn't you draft him then, Bill? Because
you had a few chances.
He's available.
Right.
He's available beyond round 1. If you have a round 1 grade on a guy who is still there at round 5, maybe you should think about drafting the guy before someone else does, and then you can develop him and trade him to someone else for more than what you drafted him for. I mean, these guys are interchangeable parts in a machine, and it dehumanizes the players, but that's how it is. If you wanted him, you go get him. You squat on him. But I heard years ago that Matt Cavanaugh was on the table for Tom Brady, and Brian Billick just had no interest. And I'm sure other teams, look, I mean, it's not like the guy was some vague prospect from Lithuania that, he was a quarterback of Michigan.
Yep.
He won the Orange Bowl. I think that his pre-draft work was so bad that that's what scared a lot of teams away. But there were teams out there that had him on the radar. And, even the Patriots, who took him in round 6, they took plenty of guys who never panned out before they took Tom Brady.
To your point, it's really easy to dunk on everybody related to Tom Brady, but even the Patriots didn't really want Tom Brady. He was an end of the draft pick. He was
one of the reasons he became Tom Brady is because he was an end of the draft pick. That's
right.
One of the ingredients. I say this all the time about receivers, that it's almost better to go in round 2 because, like Michael Thomas, even though he's fallen off due to injury the past couple of years, you get a chip on your shoulder that never goes away when you've suffered that indignity of putting yourself out there and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and the phone doesn't ring. When you clearly have a high degree of confidence in your abilities and no one sees it, you become more determined to put in the work if you feel like you've been slighted. And maybe Tom Brady never becomes Tom Brady if he doesn't get drafted 199.
That's a great point. It's a very, very good point. And look, the Ravens got their guy a couple years later in Kyle Bowler, so everything was fine. Brian Billick
that's right. It all worked out.
Found his quarterback. Playmakers available right now. Again, we've linked up on Amazon on our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio. Mike Florio is with us. Mike, I want to run this theory by you and get your thoughts about it because it's being sort of said quietly by a few people after the Ravens this week spent more money than we're used to the Ravens spending in free agency, right? There are people that say, look, boy, it really seems like they're kind of going all in this year. Are they aware that, like, Lamar Jackson's not going to be here long term? Are they maybe making plans that they need to try to win a Super Bowl right now because they're going to have to do something different? And as you know, it's been unlike when we were dealing with Joe Linta and Joe Flacco, it's been awfully tough to get really quality information related to exactly what's going on, and hypotheses are running wild when it comes to what's going on with Lamar Jackson. Where are you with that, and what do you make of the fact that the Ravens this week did something so very un-Ravens-like in the first week of free agency?
Well, one thing we have to take into account is the impact of the Rams' approach on other teams. And we're seeing other teams do things that maybe they wouldn't have done in past years. The Chargers, very aggressive. They're not just trying to stay competitive in their division. They're trying to stay competitive in the stadium they share with the Rams. And the NFL is a copycat league. Whatever works for one team, you have owners who show up at these meetings saying, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? So you start doing it. So I think that's part of it. The Lamar Jackson thing is fascinating to me. This is either a deliberate strategic play or it's completely misguided. And I'm inclined to say it's misguided, and at a minimum, I think what he should do is set up meetings with 5 agents to screen them, to interview them, to maybe pick one, and along the way pick their brains about what they think of this approach of basically failure to engage, deliberate, if it is deliberate, failure to engage the Ravens, and you necessarily push yourself toward free agency. And I've said this for years. A first-round quarterback can, if he's willing to play 7 years with his current team, can force his way out because that third franchise tag, you do 4-year rookie contract,
right.
5th-year option, 2 tags, and you walk away after that because the cap number ends up being astronomical because you get a 44% raise over your second franchise tag, which is a 20% raise over your first franchise tag. A third tag isn't going to happen. And if that's what Lamar Jackson's trying to do, I understand the theory. I just think he's the last quarterback who should be doing it because of the way he plays, because he is going to get ground up. And we already are starting to see him get injured. He was indestructible the first couple years of his career. He got injured on a hit that really didn't look all that bad. That guy, the guy dove low at him when he was out of the pocket against the Browns. But between that and the periodic illnesses, and I think that he desperately needs an agent who can help him shape the right strategy, and who then can go negotiate with the Ravens. And it's awkward for the Ravens too. I suspect that if the Ravens were being truthful about the situation, they would say, we wish this guy had an agent because we don't want to try to do a deal directly with a player.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to say things that aren't positive. You got to point out the weaknesses as you're working through a tough negotiation. I suspect that when they were dealing with Joe Linta on the Joe Flacco deal, they may have said that, he can't do this and he can't do that. It's hard to say that directly to the guy. So it would help everyone if he had an agent. And there's been this movement among some players, and fortunately it hasn't spread. It's one thing for one guy, like a Richard Sherman or Russell Okung, to decide it's right for me to not have an agent. It's another thing for them to try to spread that gospel and get other guys to do it too, just because they have a bias against the agents because they had a bad experience with an agent. I feel like that's the common thread. But the reality is, that 2 or 3% that you're going to give an agent, you're going to be left with more than if you get 100% through your own efforts. That's almost always the case. Richard Sherman, the first deal he signed with the 49ers was embarrassing. They had to get the NFLPA involved to try to get the 49ers to go back and tweak some of it to make it less slanted against Sherman. Okung's deal that he did on his own with the Broncos was beyond an embarrassment. He was completely taken advantage of by the Broncos. And these guys need good agents. Now, there's bad agents out there. You don't need a bad agent, but you need a good agent. And Lamar Jackson is good enough that he could get the best quarterback agents, and he could interview each of them, and he can pick whichever one he wants. And along the way, he can find out what they think of his apparent plan to go 1 year at a time, because I think it's a mistake. And if he was my son, my brother, my cousin, my friend, my client, I'd say you are doing the wrong thing for your career, your family, and your own financial interests.
Mike, if the theory is that, he wants to do the 7-year thing and then go play elsewhere, or even that he's like turned off by what the Ravens offer was, and let's work with the idea. I don't know, but Lock and Forrest said it was a $35 million offer, which we all know it's a joke, right?
That's an opener. That's how you negotiate. You don't come to the table with your bottom line. If you come to the table with your bottom line, you're going to pay a hell of a lot more.
Well,
See,
sure,
that's the problem
sure.
with directly negotiating with the player. The player doesn't understand the way that the world works when it comes to negotiating.
So let me go back to that and say, let's just say for whatever reason, that's as far as the Ravens have decided that they don't think they want to pay Lamar Jackson $50 million a year. They don't want to pay that rate for whatever. If you're Lamar Jackson, why would trying to get out after 7 years be a better play than demanding a trade right now in a market that is utterly devoid of quarterbacks, where Kirk Cousins is getting boku dollars, where there are, 7 teams in the NFL right now that don't have a legitimate NFL quarterback on their roster? Why wouldn't you try to force your way out to get that money now if that's what you're looking for?
Well, because if you don't have someone to do the work for you, to make the phone call to the Ravens, to make the request to the Ravens, how do you do it? How do you go about doing it? Who does Lamar Jackson call and have that difficult conversation with? That's the problem. And that's why players need good agents. It's very difficult to have these communications directly. And there's been no talk, there's been no rumor, there's been anything suggesting he wants out of Baltimore now. Maybe he should. Maybe that's part of what an agent should be advising him to do. And, part of what an agent forces you to do is sit down and figure out what your objectives are. Has he ever sat down and thought long-term about his football career? Or is he just kind of going one day at a time? I don't know. So that's the reality. When you don't have an agent, you have no one to force you to engage in the kind of long-term planning that results in the decisions. Do I go year to year and stay here 7 years and then move on? Do I try to get myself traded out of town? Do I do a long-term contract? Meanwhile, they got Tyler Huntley, and even though Huntley's not as good as Lamar Jackson, dollar for dollar, if they could, the thing I'm watching is, because he's an exclusive rights free agent, which means he's not a free agent at all, but if they would sign him to a multi-year deal, that would be an indication they're protecting themselves against the uncertainty that's going on with Lamar Jackson.
I hear you, man. We saw the Tyler Huntley thing. Like he's not an NFL quarterback either, Mike. Like he's a guy, and you can certainly have him around as a backup, but he can't throw the ball downfield. Like it's I've heard that a few times, and it's just I'm struggling with that. Like if they're making plans around Tyler Huntley, they got a bigger problem. Because,
well, and the other side of it too is they're getting closer to the draft, and
right.
You see what they do in the draft,
right?
Hey, and the other question is that they've built the offense around Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
Well, you either are going to have to change the offense, or you have to find another Lamar Jackson, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes as well.
And I don't know that there is another Lamar Jackson, right? He's that unique.
It's unfortunate. Look, if this was happening within the confines of a guy who was represented by one of the top quarterback agents, I would say, well, this is a shrewd move, or there's a method to the madness. I don't know that there's a method to this. And that's what's unfortunate. If it's just kind of randomly happening and there isn't a plan, that's not the way that this should be going on, because Lamar Jackson is putting too much money at risk, especially in light of his playing style.
I hear. Again, with the idea that he has done a very good job of taking fewer hits, like he has done a very good job of eluding those big hits. But I understand what it is that you're saying, Mike, for sure. All right, I know you got about 1,000 more of these to do. Playmakers is available right now. Go check it out. Amazon, we'll link it up. We had a snafu. We tagged the wrong account, so we're fixing that, and we apologize, Mike. Anything else that we can plug for you? The show, the podcast, anything?
Well, that's all. That's the stuff. I'm used to plugging that stuff. 7
Yeah, right.
9 a.m. Eastern, PFT Live on Peacock and Sirius XM 85, PFTPM, Peacock and Sirius XM 85 at 5 p.m. Eastern. But go buy Playmakers. Don't get it in the library. People are saying it's showing up in the library. No.
Yeah, buy it.
Buy books.
Yeah.
Don't know. What's this whole swap meet used book? Bring it home. Somebody's had it in the bathroom or gotten nacho cheese Doritos all over it. Do you really want a book somebody else has had their hands on? Get your own copy of Playmakers. That's my sorry, librarians. That's my official position.
Mike Florio, appreciate you, my friend. Congratulations again on the book. It's an awesome accomplishment, man. Thank you for taking the time for us as
all
always.
Right, thank you.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. Apologize, we had a little snafu that everybody was getting all hot and bothered about. Paul's fixing it. These things happen. It's a mistake. These things occur, but we're getting that fixed on Twitter right now. Look, I think it's easy to say Lamar needs to have an agent. I think it's easy to say that. How true it is, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still struggling with that. Does he need to have an agent? Probably not. Would it be helpful? Probably. Where we're going, I'm still at a loss. I go back to the word weird. I'm still at a loss as to where we're going. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with this. But there's nothing logical. There's no logical path. I can push back on a few of the things. Whenever somebody brings up Tyler Huntley, stop. Stop. If the Ravens are making a decision considering Tyler Huntley, they should blow up the organization. I'm not trying to disrespect Tyler Huntley, who I think is a neat story and a capable guy, but stop making plans around Tyler Huntley. No. He's not good enough. You're gonna go. You're in Pittsburgh, throwing yourself at Mitchell Trubisky. And not even, frankly, Mitchell Trubisky. I hate saying this because it sounds like I'm taking shots at Tyler Huntley. Mitchell Trubisky is more naturally talented than Tyler Huntley is. Tyler Huntley showed an ability to run around for a little while, and that's not nothing, and can keep you in the NFL for a little while, and maybe could make you as good as Tyrod Taylor, who's been a spot starter for teams. But it ain't good enough to be a guy that you can build a franchise around. He could be someone's transition quarterback until you get your quarterback, but you don't make plans around Tyler Huntley. The risk of playing it out to 7 years because of the wear and tear, again, we have to acknowledge Lamar's injury didn't come because of his style of play. He has avoided the big hits. I still don't know why it would make it smart, even if we dismiss that, even if we say, hey, he's really not more of an injury risk. You're still not going to sell me on why it's smarter to wait it out 7 years. Get more guaranteed money from whoever's willing to give you guaranteed money. It's as simple as that. I don't know what we're doing here. And again, if the Ravens aren't willing to do it, and to Mike Florio's point, it might very well be that $35 million was just their starting number, and that if they actually got into back and forth negotiations, they would get to the point where they would acknowledge they're willing to pay him $50 million. If I'm Lamar Jackson, I would say let's skip to that part. I'm telling you I'm willing to play out to the tag. So if you're going to tag me, we skip ahead to that number. Forget all of it. And if the Ravens are dragging their feet and saying, we don't really want to skip that part, we want to talk about numbers between there, then you say, cool, trade me. Everyone needs quarterbacks. Everyone. Not everyone, but so many teams do. Trade me. Let me find out who the team is that's ready to give me that number and get more guaranteed money than I would get playing this franchise tag game. It just makes no sense. All right, today's show is also brought to you by, the Baltimore Police Department. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org. Danny Singletary was part of the Coppin team that beat South Carolina 25 years ago in the NCAA Tournament. We're going to chat with him next. It is a Thursday edition, St. Patrick's Day edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Glory Days Grill's St. Patrick's menu is now in full swing, and it's their most popular seasonal menu all year. New in 2022 are their smoky thigh wings with Guinness grilling sauce, a house-made Guinness barbecue sauce. Fan favorites also include their corned beef and cabbage, the shepherd's pie with Guinness braised ground beef, the Glory Days Reuben, and the Rachel. Enjoy a pint of Guinness or Guinness Baltimore Blonde. The St. Patrick's menu is available for the whole month of March. Come in for great food, cold beer, and basketball. Find out more about Glory Days Grill and get your order in online at glorydaysgrill.com.
The newest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything, don't forget that you can find whole shows later on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcasts. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on a GCR as we continue along on a Thursday edition of GCR ahead of the start of the NCAA Tournament today. And it's with that in mind that we are really happy to welcome in our next guest. And I got the chance to watch on ESPN Plus this week On in Coppin, which is a very cool doc that Jerry Bembry and his team put together. Celebrating the 25th anniversary of one of the great upsets in NCAA tournament history. And if I remember correctly, it was the second time in NCAA tournament history that a 15 seed had ever beaten a 2 seed. And 25 years ago this week, Coppin State up in Pittsburgh defeated South Carolina. Joining us now, the man who hit the dagger 3 to put it away in the closing minutes. He is former Coppin star Danny Singletary, and he's with us on GCR. Danny, it's Glenn and Paul back in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Danny, when I bring up 25 years ago and you guys being up in Pittsburgh to play South Carolina, what are the memories that come flooding back for you?
Oh, man. Just the atmosphere, how how much of just nervousness, excitement, and just seeing just the crowd. I felt like I was in the NBA right at that time.
Wow. Yeah, sure. Sure. It's a little bit different than playing at the old Coppin Center, you know?
Exactly. When it only holds 2,500 compared to 25,000 plus, and it felt like every seat was filled.
What made you guys believe that week, Danny? What, when you were getting prepared for that game, what made you believe you were capable of beating that South Carolina team?
Well, our coach Fane always said, we had the toughest out of conference schedule in the nation. So when we played the Arizonas, we played the Californians when Jason State was there. We played the Nebraskas when Tyrone Lue was there. We played Oklahomans when Nahara was there. So we played big teams that, is now in the NBA. So when we got to the time, it wasn't the fact that, if we could play with them, it was just, when time came, what would we do?
Hey, Danny, I apologize. We're getting a lot of interference on your phone. Can we grab you and see if we can't get you in a little bit of a better signal? Paul, if you can pick up the phone and see if we can't get Danny in a little bit of a better spot cell-wise, just because I don't want anybody to miss out on what it is that we're talking about. Danny Singletary from Coppin State with us here on GCR, just trying to make sure that we can get him there in a little bit of a better spot in order to have this conversation as we reflect back 25 years ago on their upset of South Carolina in the NCAA Tournament. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Again, we are getting ready for the start of the NCAA Tournament today, and don't forget that Rodney Elliott, speaking of Baltimore basketball, Rodney Elliott, the former Terp, the Dunbar legend, he and I will be with you in the FanDuel Sportsbook tomorrow at Live Casino and Hotel. We'll be hanging out, watching the games with you from 12 to 4 with great giveaways, betting advice, things along those lines. Looking forward to hanging out with you tomorrow in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Let's try to go back to Danny Singletary, the former Coppin star. Let's see if that works out a little bit better. Danny, you there?
Yep. Is I'm better?
It's a little bit better. Yeah, a little bit better. We just got to fix something on our end. Great. Awesome. Thank you for getting that squared away. So, yeah, what you pointed out, as we all know, I mean, Fang scheduled the World Tour every year, right? Like, you guys are playing everybody. And because you had played in all those kind of crazy environments, that made you say, we can go do this. This isn't crazy, us beating a team like this in a neutral court.
Exactly. When you go play a good, tough out-of-conference season, playing in your own conference was totally different. So we was already prepared for that. But then going back and winning the tournament and coming back out and playing there, it just made it a whole lot more sense when, we stepped on a court with a big team like South Carolina.
Danny, your shot is sort of thought of as the one that put it away, right? When you release the ball and you see it go through there with about 140 left in the game,
I think.
Yeah.
I know it was at the end of the game. I knew the shot clock was time going down. So I was just like, all right, if I can get it over his hand.
Right. Just got to get when it goes down, can you take me through? Is there any way that you can recreate those feelings that you had in that moment, kind of knowing, oh, this is happening, we're doing this?
That memory right there was crazy, but it was, was even more that didn't make sense to me, but made sense. So when I shot the shot and I saw it go through, in my head, I'm like, yes, I'm going to see how they're going to come back. So in my head, I'm like, now, as much as I want to celebrate, I'm like, all right, we got to get back on defense. Now, you know what? What's my next, what's my next step right now? Wait a minute, I got to get back on defense. I know he's going to try to come down and match me. And that was all in my head. So it was crazy that you said that, because if you see the very next play, I got the steal.
That's right. That's right. You weren't celebrating. You were still playing.
Exactly. Like when I shot it and it went in, I was like, all right, what's the next play? You know what I mean? I know they're going to come back and try to score real quick. Let me get back. As everybody else is celebrating, I'm like, we need to get back because, hey, they about to come right back at us. And just like that, I was just like, you know what? Even though, because my biggest thing was always, I knew I was always the underdog, but I always had to be ready for whatever happened, as being an underdog. Like, I celebrate when it's 0-0-0-0. But right now, we still in war.
Yeah.
We still, what I mean? We still in a dog
Yeah,
fight.
we haven't won anything yet. And you guys
Exactly.
knew that was a loaded team. They were plenty capable of scoring points in a hurry. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly. And, remember, that's the year they beat Kentucky twice.
Right. Oh, they were very deserving of being a 2 seed. There was no debate about that. Like, people hear South Carolina basketball, they're like, really? I'm like, no. That was legit as legit could be.
Exactly.
That team.
They beat the big team Kentucky twice, where everybody was, getting ran through.
You guys had a great chance. Danny, as much as the memories of that day are so wonderful, are they at all conflicted by, like, the real chance that you guys had to win again against Texas a couple days later? Like, how long did it take? Yeah.
Now, that is the memory I don't look the the dwell about, because that game, and I never really brung this up. Ah, man, that game, if we'd have beat Texas, I think we would have beat Wisconsin. I think it would have been a showdown with us in North Carolina at that time. Because if you remember, Texas lost to Wisconsin when they had that one shooter. They lost to him 63-64.
Was it Finley?
Not Finley, the other one.
Oh man, I'll come up with it.
Yeah. But it was just the one guy in their squad that, they always went to, and they lost 63-64. Texas lost 63-64. Remember, we played up in the 80s. So
right.
It was a totally different, game of how the style we played compared to how Texas played. It was, and, Texas was a big team. So, if you look at their players, with Klatt, they had big guards, huge guards, Reggie Freeman. So that was a game where, and they big man was even bigger. So, they smallest guy on the court at one time was like 6'3", 6'4", and I was sticking Klatt at 6'3".
Right.
And, I'm only 6 foot. So that game, right, so it came all the way down to one, even though you watched the whole game, we lost 82-81, it came down to the one play where I know, I watched the whole game in my head, and the only thing I remember is the last play, and us setting up for a out of bounds right on our court, and me looking where when Red got pushed. And I came because I was the release player. I was the relief of the relief pass on a squad. If I would have stepped up, and that's the one where Klatt came in front of me and stole the ball. If I would have stepped and we would have collided, I knew I would have got the foul right there, and I knew for a fact that we would have beat them. I would have made those free throws right there at that time.
Still. It changes nothing about what you guys actually accomplished. I mean, I get it. You could accomplish more. What was the coolest moment in the aftermath of that for you, Danny?
The coolest, crazy. I'm gonna tell you, it was also a crazy moment as well. We went to remember Rod Woodson, right?
Yep, of course.
All right. He had a restaurant in Pittsburgh at the time.
Yep.
We went to the restaurant. We stepped in the restaurant with our Coppin gear on.
Yeah.
You know they didn't want to serve us?
Wait, what?
Yes.
Why? You guys just pulled off the greatest upset ever.
But guess what they said is some influential men in here that was upset that we won the game. So
wait, hang on a second. Can I read that correctly? You mean like maybe like some perhaps mob guys that had some money on that?
Yes.
That is awesome. Oh my God, what a story.
Yes.
You guys did they end up serving you or not? Did they end up?
No.
Oh
we
my
had to leave.
God.
We had to leave. Yes. Nobody. I bet you never heard that.
I've never heard that story. You couldn't go to dinner because bettors, mobsters lost so much money on
Yes.
South Carolina that they wouldn't. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yes,
That
the waitress said, "I don't think y'all should want to sit in here."
Oh.
And I didn't want to say that word, but they was like, "There's some guys that's in here."
Oh, that,
Yeah,
that
not
is
thinking
incredible.
highly kindly of y'all right
That
now.
is really incredible, man.
Yes. Yes. So we turned around quick. I was like, "Yo, we need to be out."
I mean, I don't know, guys like you. I'm kind of surprised you weren't ready to fight. I'm sorry.
You can see it was that. Oh man,
that is crazy. Did you get to? Was there somebody that you got to meet or that you got to hear from at some point after that? I mean, it wasn't the social media age, right? Like, so you didn't get to. Like UMBC won a game a few years ago, and like Steph Curry's tweeting with them afterwards, right? Because
right. Nah, we didn't have that luxury, but we did have the luxury of being the first historical black college to go to the tournament and win.
Yeah.
So having that, we went different places. Like afterwards, the Harlem Boys Choir. We went and we met them. We had a parade down in D.C. and met the Secretary of Defense there.
Wow. Wow.
We went to a Baltimore Orioles game, and Coach Vane Mitchell threw out the first ball. So we definitely had, for being, the first to do different things with the historic black college. We definitely had some things that we did that appreciated, the fact that this is the accomplishment that we made.
One of my favorite stories about you, were you even at Coppin State to play basketball, or did you have something else that you cared about a little bit more than that, Danny?
Yeah, that's crazy that you asked. Like, so I went to a NAIA school, Ohio Valley.
Yep.
And I came there on a baseball scholarship. So, yeah, came there on a baseball scholarship. I'm talking to the baseball coach. So the baseball coach is like, "And I heard you play basketball over there?" I was like, "Yeah." And, I was All-American in NAIA. I was All-American, average 35. But I was like, this wasn't my sport, though. I wanted to play. That was the love. My love was baseball. I wanted to play baseball.
Wow.
So, yes, it was great. And so he introduced me to the basketball coach. So the coach was like, "Wait a minute, you a baseball player?" And that's what he said. He was like, "You a baseball player?" I was like, "Yeah, but I play basketball," And he literally, with some guys in the gym. I'm meeting the head coach, Vane Mitchell, at the time, and there was some guys downstairs. I'm in an eagle nest, and there's guys downstairs playing. So he looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and he was just like, "Come on." If you ever heard Big talk, like, come on. He always, and from that point, and I said, "You know what, give me some shorts." I had no problems going down there, and that's where I first met Turk, Jupac, Julian King, Turk Ramak. That's when I first met them. They was downstairs. They was, in the gym shooting around. That's when I first met Antoine Brockington, and Reggie Welch. So that was the little squad that, that he already had there. And, putting me together in the midst, I just meshed. You could see Turk was a big boy at the time. So, with me, my behind, I'm in there going, "Oh man, this is a big boy."
Right.
And I gained Turk respect by, we was playing a little game, a 3-on-3, and they switched off, and he's hitting me hard, and I'm sitting up here hitting him right back, like, "Come on!" And I'm sitting up here in my head, like, "What in the world is I'm about to get squashed right now?" Because he's like, "Yo, who is that?" Switch up.
Yeah.
But he definitely, from that point, me and him definitely, talked, and then he was just like, "Oh, you coming here?" And I was just like, "Yeah," and of course, everything else is history.
It's history, right? From being there to play baseball to being part of one of the greatest moments in the history of college basketball. I mean, it's what an awesome story.
It was definitely a blessing.
Danny, before I let you go, I want to know, when you sit down the next couple days to watch basketball, do you find yourself rooting for low seeds for 15?
Underdog.
Or
Yes.
I almost wonder if it go the other way. Like, hey man, the more these guys that win, the less people remember us.
I've been the underdog all my life, ever since, because, I always used to be the smallest guy. So I always had to work the hardest. And, you do, that's not taken away from the guys that work just as hard, that's the favorite. But I always was the one that, hey, you know what? I want to see what happens when that guy that nobody thinks that can make it happen, see what he does. So I'm always rooting for the 15s, 16s. The guys that, people don't give them a good chance to win. But I always was taught, you put on the socks and you put on that uniform.
Just like everybody else. Yeah, right. No doubt, man.
So,
no doubt.
Stats don't win the game.
Let's go Norfolk State. Let's go Texas Southern. Let's go make some history. I like everything about that.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny, what can we tell people you're up to these days?
Well, at this time, I live in Georgia now, and I work for Home Depot. I'm a loss prevention officer for Home Depot, and that's these days what I've been doing. I'm on off time. I'm still in the community. I wish I was back at home in Jersey, but I'm doing a little something right now where I'm trying to help the kids out with just the consciousness of how to look at things now, because how the world is now, being a student athlete, you got to look at it from definitely a perspective of how you can make yourself better. And I always tell them, that's the reason why a student is always in front of the athlete, because in anything you do, if you don't seem like you're a coachable person, if you don't seem, if you out here and you think you can be a good basketball player or a great basketball player, but you don't got no grades behind it, that coach not gonna look at you like that. You're gonna have to be a LeBron James now to get an opportunity where they're gonna go and look at the Steph Curry that has great grades, and on top of not being the basketball player as he is now, but he's coachable. So he's gonna, always, that potential is always a ceiling for you when they can see that you're deemed to be coachable. And, you have a 3.4, 3.5 GPA compared to you having a 2.5 and a 2.0 GPA.
It's important. That's an important lesson to be sharing with young people, man. I appreciate that. Danny Singletary, man, I was a kid. Paul and I were talking about the other day. I was like 14 years old, and I was jumping off my couch. It was such a thrill. It was such an exciting moment. It was so cool to see Fang get his name on the court here at Coppin, and I really encourage everybody to check out On and Coppin, which is available now on ESPN Plus, which is a great look back on it.
Because I didn't really even get to watch it because I've been running around with Home Depot, and everybody been talking. They put me in a group chat, and then, I'm like, hey.
You gotta watch it, bro. It'll send some memories back. Danny, what a thrill it was watching you guys shock the world 25 years ago this week. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate everything you did, and thank you for the call.
Absolutely, man. Great to hear from you. Danny Singletary, former Coppin State standout, again, 25 years ago this week. They knocked off – I had never heard that story before. They couldn't go to dinner because mobsters were so mad about the money they lost betting on South Carolina.
It's crazy.
That they forced Coppin out of the restaurant.
It's crazy.
Rod Woodson's place. We might have to deal with Rod at some point. Might have to bring that up.
Call.
That is wild, man. Great story. And again, go check out On and Coppin. It's really good. All right. Today's show is also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy Football. Encourage you to be playing Underdog. They got plenty of great basketball and hockey contests, baseball coming in the next few days. Of course, you use the code PRESSBOX, make your first deposit up to $100. We'll match it with free money for you to play with. You can't legally bet on your phone or on your computer yet, but you can play Underdog and feel like you're betting with player props and parlays, plus the traditional fantasy games you've known and loved. Download the Underdog app or go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Stan the Fan Charles is here. He's going to come hang out with us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Glory Days Grill's St. Patrick's menu is now in full swing, and it's their most popular seasonal menu all year. New in 2022 are their smoky thigh wings with Guinness grilling sauce, a house-made Guinness barbecue sauce. Fan favorites also include their corned beef and cabbage, the shepherd's pie with Guinness braised ground beef, the Glory Days Reuben, and the Rachel. Enjoy a pint of Guinness or Guinness Baltimore Blonde. The St. Patrick's menu is available for the whole month of March. Come in for great food, cold beer, and basketball. Find out more about Glory Days Grill and get your order in online at glorydaysgrill.com.
Baseball is back. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
You can find us live every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon talking all things Orioles and Major League Baseball.
Like the debuts of Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez.
And how the rotation and bullpen are rounding into form. Watch us live at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and facebook.com/PressBoxSports.
Or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio.
That's the Bat Around, live with the latest in baseball coverage every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
All right, back in here on GCR, and it's been a while. Look who's wandered in to say hello, hang out with us.
Where's the camera?
And you want to show your bracket? You got with Tennessee. I got them losing to Longwood in round one. Sorry, bud. Got bad news. They're losing to Longwood.
Everybody knows the Glenn Clark pool.
Yeah, correct. I've never gotten anything. Actually, I don't have them losing to Longwood, but that'd be great because I know Longwood's coach, of course, former UMBC assistant Griff Aldrich down at Longwood, so that would be a neat story for him to do that. I've got them losing to Villanova, actually, in the, I think, Elite Eight.
I've seen them play about 2 times this year, but
makes you an expert.
I sort of had my eye.
Sweet 16, I got them losing.
They just sort of win all the time.
They do a lot of winning. You're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
The Tennessee does a lot of
Barnes
winning.
He's a
It was someone,
coach.
when Rodney and I were hanging out in the FanDuel Sportsbook on Sunday, there was somebody that showed me a very significant bet they made on Tennessee to win it all. Like, I said, boy, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but if you've got...
That was my beard.
That's what the guy that you sent down. I don't know what you're doing with your life, but if you got this type of money to throw at Tennessee winning it all...
How much did he bet? Like, $5 grand?
It was a little around that neighborhood, right around that. I'm like, holy
What
F,
are
man.
they? They're probably like 15 to 1 or.
Yeah, it'd be right. Well, I don't even think it's that to win. Wait, to win it all? Yeah, probably around 15 to 1. I was gonna say, I think they're. I saw their Final Four odds the other day. Hang on,
I'm sure Gonzaga is probably the favorite. At
They
like
are
2 to 1 or 7.
They are.
to
Yeah,
2.
they are negative money to reach the Final Four. They are just over plus money to win the national championship. Like they are a significant favorite.
And I would think Arizona is like
Gonzaga
3 or 4 to 1.
plus 2. Again, we take our numbers from the FanDuel Sportsbook. Gonzaga plus 270, Arizona 6 to 1, Kentucky plus 950, Kansas 11 to 1.
Kentucky is like third.
Kentucky is third, but I think this also.
That's surprising.
For example, Duke is 7th, and I know you don't want it. Duke is not even close to the 7th best team in the country, and definitely should not have gotten a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament.
I agree. They should have been a 3.
Yes,
and a low 3.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny.
I just think that's name recognition that leads people to bet on
No
teams
question
like
about
that.
And there's a lot of money being bet sentimentally on.
Yep,
People don't
Mike
bet
Krzyzewski, yep.
sentimentally that much. But on something like this, they're saying, hey, these players will make
Yeah,
a
they'll
run
push
for
to
'em.
get 'em a title,
They'll
yep.
get them a title. I was thinking that about 3 weeks ago when I watched them play North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I saw something in that team. I said, boy, they really wanted to win that game for Coach K. You know, his last time at Dean Smith.
Yeah, how'd that go?
And, well, they did beat
Oh, the
them there
Carolina.
in
Sorry, the Carolina game. Yes, they did win that one.
And I
yes.
had a feeling that the game at Cameron was going to be much closer, and I gave UNC a chance at that game, a significant chance to win that game, because I said Carolina is not going to want to be beaten in his last, in their last game against Coach K. But I watched them, not the Syracuse game, the game against Miami. They did not look very good, and then the Va-Tech game,
they get their ass beat.
It's just it's been the problem Coach K's had the last 7 or 8 years. When he went into the one and done thing, he did it big time. He didn't just get one or two one.
That's why they built the roster.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there's no veteran presence out there to calm things down. To really
If things aren't going their way,
Yeah.
they tend to struggle. It's a very good point. By the way, Tennessee is 25-1, so you were almost right
I
on
still
it.
have time to get down there.
If you want to race down, the games have, and the odds, even after the games tip off, the odds will still be up for winning the title. But after they lose to Longwood, you won't be able to get in any longer.
I heard from a friend of mine who plays in some pools that I run.
Mm-hmm.
He's out in Vegas right now. That the Tampa Bay Bucks, and I was shocked to hear this, that they were 25-1 before the announcement.
They didn't have a quarterback.
Who was going to have? I mean, why wouldn't they have been like 200-1 before?
Well, because
Brady
there's
came
only
back?
there's only so many teams. There's only 32
Okay.
teams.
Well,
so
I
hear you.
If you look at who was available, there wasn't a lot of available. So I wonder if a lot of
there was
inside people
there was definitely some
thought
word
Brady
that
were
there
gonna-
were some big bets that had been laid down on the Buccaneers in the week. That there was some inside stuff. I'll give you an example of something, Stan.
I think they're coercing the Brady family. I think they've got them held hostage.
Did you just hear what Danny Singletary? So you remember when Coppin? By the way, Stan the Fan is here. Did we say that? I don't even know if we said that. Stan the Fan is here. Danny, do you remember when Coppin beat South Carolina 25 years ago in the NCAA tournament? The story that Danny Singletary, I've never heard the story before.
That was in Pittsburgh.
That was in Pittsburgh.
Right.
They, after the game, went to go to dinner at Rod Woodson's restaurant in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And the server said, "You have to leave." And it wasn't a racism thing.
Right.
It was, there are some mobsters here that lost a lot of money on you,
Right.
and they want you gone.
Okay. I thought they
And
might want to pick up the check.
Yeah, no, he said the term was very influential people,
Yeah,
is what
very
they were told. There were some very influential people here that want you out. I got a buddy,
Who told you that story?
Danny Singletary. We just had him on.
Okay.
This is the 25th anniversary this week, so we're celebrating that.
That's great.
And I really do encourage you guys to go to watch On and Coppin is the documentary that Jerry Bembry made that's available on ESPN Plus right now.
What's it
Celebrate
called?
On and Coppin.
On
There's a phrase in culture. It's on and hoppin'.
Okay.
He just
On
changed
and
it to
Coppin.
on and coppin'.
Okay.
So yesterday, I've been betting a lot of the Indian Wells tennis tournament this week. And yesterday, I looked at the Yannick Sinner-Nick Kyrgios match. Now, Nick Kyrgios is a very popular tennis player who's not always very good. He's got a lot of talent, but he's just kind of crazy. Yannick Sinner might be a star of stars in the next couple years. He is an Italian player that is just unbelievable.
Never heard of either player. And
It's,
you know
look,
I follow
I
tennis
know
a little bit.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Yannick Sinner is a rock star. A rock star. Nick Kyrgios, you know Nick Kyrgios. Every year during the Australian Open, they put his matches in prime time because he's a huge deal in Australia. Right. But he's crazy. Like, he just sort of loses his mind, and for as talented as he is, he starts trying to hit the ball between his legs and being an entertainer and forgets that he's supposed to be playing tennis sometimes.
Right.
And
Sounds like a modern day Elena Stasi.
Kinda.
Yeah.
There's maybe even a little bit more there. Yeah. So I looked at the numbers yesterday and I said, Sinner's only minus 125? What's going on there? So I texted a buddy of mine. I said, that doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
And he said, hey, look, Kyrgios hasn't dropped a set yet. They're at Indian Wells. He hasn't really played anybody, and they've never played each other head-to-head, so it's kind of hard to come up with what the number should be. And I was like, I mean, there's no world in which Sinner should only be minus 125. He should be more like minus 300 against. So I'll lay down $100 on Sinner at this number. 20 minutes later, Yannick Sinner had to pull out of the match because of an illness.
Now,
So
did
they
you lose that bet?
No, because it didn't get played. Thank God. Because if he had gone out and tried to play and then had to
he
bail,
would've- he
then I would have
would've
lost the bet.
disqualified probably,
But
yeah.
clearly,
Yeah, they
somebody
do.
got word that Yannick Sinner was sick.
Yeah.
And that could impact him playing, and so they could only establish him at -120. It's just every time you see something like that, you're like, that doesn't make sense. They know something.
Well,
They know something.
Apparently, Brady's comeback dropped the Bucks from 25-1, which again I think is crazy that they were only 25-1, but to 8-1 now.
750 is where they are right now in the FanDuel Sportsbook, behind only the Bills, who added Von Miller. We didn't really talk about that.
They added Von Miller today?
Bills were a big number. 6
years,
years.
120.
Yeah, they added Von Miller. Now, look, it's a lot of money, but I get it. He's Von Miller, and everybody was making fun of the Rams for adding Von Miller, and all of a sudden, when they won the Super Bowl, Von Miller was a massive part of them winning the Super Bowl.
4 sacks in the postseason.
Yeah, I'll.
Have the Ravens done anything this morning?
Not since Za'Darius Smith is still the most recent thing that they did.
They did bring.
Yeah, last night they signed Za'Darius.
What
Smith.
kind of contract was that?
3 years.
4 years,
and-
35
4 years.
million.
Thank you. That's exactly right. 4 years,
And
35.
how much guaranteed money? Like 12, 14, something.
I did not.
I
I
don't
did not see.
Okay.
I did not see what it is.
That's good. When I saw him released by Green Bay, I thought there was a fit there.
Stecca apparently bet 25-1 on Tennessee, so he's riding with you.
Okay.
He's riding with you, Stan the fan. He's on your side.
Did he just say something to you about
Yeah,
that?
he did.
Okay.
He just
Does he realize that any chance?
Yeah. Oh,
Tennessee
yeah.
had
I got bad news for you, Andrew. I'm so sorry. The fact that you made a huge mistake betting Tennessee at 25-1, because now that Stan's picked them,
By the way, you're
poor son of a bitch didn't even see it coming.
You're going to have a guest on Tuesday morning, I think.
Yeah,
At 11 o'clock. Yahoo Blackwell.
Yep.
Have you researched him?
I haven't
at all?
done my work yet. I know he's a boxer.
He's a boxer.
I know he's got a big fight coming up.
He's got a big fight coming up a week from tomorrow on CBS Sports. He's on the undercard. It's in the Dominican Republic. And Boogie Wonglass is a friend of his and has helped him.
And is
you
a
know,
Baltimore
support him.
institution.
Support him. So Boogie says, look, if he wins this fight, and he's getting a nice number for this fight, win or lose, he's getting 350.
Okay.
Win or lose, and I'm doing a Zoom with him, by the way, tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
at
you
1
got
o'clock.
2 shows. We'll talk more about
Yeah,
that in a second. You got 2 shows this
okay.
week. Yep.
But Boogie says, he says, you know, and the reason I'm helping him a little bit, he goes, fan, he goes, if it really, he wins this fight, I want you to become involved, and you'll have a little piece of the action.
This is sort of like a horse. You're buying what you're buying.
I said, do you realize this poor guy doesn't realize?
Oh yeah,
what
it's a
happened to his
it's a
career?
terrible idea.
I said,
keep
the minute you put me
keep him
involved-
away. Keep him away. We want this kid to succeed. Stay away from him, Stan.
He's a powerful. Boogie met him when he was in town working out at LifeBridge Health. He saw this.
That's cool.
This big,
That's cool.
burly African American guy, and he started talking to him. And the guy's a fighter, and a pretty damn good fighter.
By the way, speaking of boxing, and we'll talk to him. I know you're doing it. There's a really cool local story that's just because boxing doesn't matter anymore. Like, it's not getting any play. There is a fight that's been announced for a couple weeks from now. Hasim Rahman Jr. versus Tommy Morrison Jr.
Wow.
It's a really
Is one
neat.
of them any good?
Like, Hasim will tell you his youngest son is the best of his 3 sons. Hasim Jr. has fought relevantly at the heavyweight level. Like, it's funny because
It's hard for me to think of Hasim Rahman having sons that are now in their.
well, you know,
20s.
we had him on a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I was talking to Hasim about his youngest son, and I did not realize how young his youngest son was. I was like, how is a son of yours fighting at lightweight? He's like, Glenn, he's 14. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. That made no sense to me whatsoever that one of Hasim's boys would be a lightweight. But yeah, Hasim Rahman Jr. versus Tommy Morrison Jr.
Will that be on TV?
I'm trying to
somewhere?
find it. I just saw it pop up. I'm trying to get the details on that because I'm going to
That sounds good.
I'll happily put them on to promote it because I think it's a neat story. Yeah. I also have told before. I randomly was close friends with Tommy Morrison for a while when I lived out in Arizona and got to walk him to the ring when he tried to make a comeback in 2007 or whatever year that would have been. My buddy Tracy and I got to walk. Like he's like, "Are you coming to the fight on Saturday?" I'm like, I might go. He's like, "Great, you can walk with me to the ring." I'm like, "Wait, that's part of your entourage?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Shut up!" I felt like Justin Bieber walking out to the ring with Floyd Mayweather. I'm like,
great.
it was it was the Duke. I'm walking out with the champ, man. Tommy Gunn from the Rocky movie we try to pretend never happened.
Yeah.
That was a cool thing.
Which one was that called? What was
Rocky
that
V.
called?
That was where they didn't build up to an actual boxing match. They built up to a fight in the street. That was we just try to pretend like it never happened. All of the other Rocky films are so good that we can pretend like Rocky V was never a thing.
Never
And
existed. Just never
happened. So tonight you're going to be on Zoom.
Yeah, Gary Stein and I tonight will welcome in a young lady who interned for me briefly, probably about 10 years, 12, 13 years ago when she was probably about 14 or 15, Maddie Brightman. She is the daughter of T.J. Brightman, who's the vice president with the Baltimore Orioles and a longtime friend of ours over here at Pressbox. Maddie is a sort of content producer for the Scott Van Pelt Show, which, by the way, do you see it sometimes? Do you ever have any clear understanding what time it starts?
It just
ends?
sort of depends on what they're airing.
It seems like a very complicated show.
I think the concept was supposed to be 11. Like he was supposed to be like a late night host. But it just like
they
for
put
example,
him on after events.
If the Suns are playing on ESPN and I'm watching that game, he'll come on after that. If there's a college basketball game that I'm watching on ESPN, he might come on after that.
And they must have the show, and I'm going to talk to Maddie about that. They must tape segments.
Oh, they 100%
to kind of fit in
the work around when.
Hey, we got 15 minutes here or 8 minutes here. They did a tremendous story the other night. The Chosen Ones, it was called, about the high school team that beat LeBron James. It's like the 25th anniversary or something like that.
All right,
they beat him in the state championship.
I don't even know that I knew that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a neat story.
They were undefeated that year and had beaten this team by about 8 or 9 points earlier in the season. And they were talking about it, how it showed we weren't in awe of them.
Right.
And they ended up beating them,
So you're talking to Maddie tonight.
Yeah.
7 o'clock.
And then tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Luke Jackson and I will talk to Yahoo Blackwell.
Okay.
And then Monday, Dave Tremblay is our guest.
I saw Dave's got a new gig.
He's got the same gig, actually. It caught me by surprise. He's coaching he's managing in this Major League Baseball
draft league.
It's the players who don't get drafted.
Mm-hmm. It's the league that Frederick Keys are in.
Yes.
Yeah. Sounds right. Yep.
Anyway,
his pitching coach is
Jim Gott. Yeah, I thought that was really
famous
cool.
For
starting the first game of the streak.
Yeah. Giving Cal Ripken his game ball from his first Major League win.
Yep.
The night that Cal broke the streak.
It's funny. I never knew about that story, but Stan told me about it years ago and said, you should try to talk to Jim Gott. Yeah. It's a really great story. And then it ended up being one of my favorite stories that I ever did.
Yeah.
Because you talked it. So Jim Gott, the former pitcher who's now the pitching. So this is the State College Pennsylvania team that Dave Tremblay is the manager and Jim Gott is the pitching coach.
I swear he was in Virginia last year somewhere.
Might have been. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But he's
no,
in, I know.
Dave Tremblay.
Right. I know he's in State College now.
Okay.
So I reach out to Jim Gott, and his stories are unbelievable. He's
got some good ones.
He said. So Jim Gott started. Of course, nobody knew it was the first day of the legendary streak. He started game 1, and it was his first career win as a pitcher. So of course,
on his shelf for 20 years.
He's got the ball because it was his first career win. And then the night that Cal Ripken was going to break the streak, he happened. 12 years, 13 years. He was injured at that point, and so he wasn't pitching. And the Orioles called and said, "Would you want to come to the game?"
Right.
And he was like, "Are you kidding me? Of course I would like to come to the game." And then they followed up by saying, "Would you be willing to ride in a cab with Ernie Banks?"
Right.
He's like, I think I can share a cab with Ernie Banks.
The only part of the story I think is different. I think he reached out to Orioles PR.
Maybe it was what it was.
I've got this ball.
Right,
And
and,
I'd
he
like to
wanted,
give
and he
it-
was with it,
I'd
and
like to-
Cal was really reluctant to take it
Yeah.
when he offered it to him. He was
Yeah.
like, "No, I
It's
really
your
want you to
ball,
have
right.
it."
Yeah.
And I've talked to Cal about it, and Cal's like, "It means a lot to me.
a
Like,
great story.
it means more that it was his first career win, and he was willing to give me the ball.
Absolutely
like,
fantastic
it means even more to me. It's a tremendous. I couldn't have." He said he was like, I felt like I was giving gold to the baby Jesus that night. Like, yes, I'm willing to give him the ball.
By the way, did you guys see the other night they announced, it was during a Wizards game, they announced that the NBA in honor of their 75th anniversary celebration of the top 75 players. I think they're doing this to every city that one of the players played in.
Okay.
But the NBA is paying to refurbish
The unsold school.
unsold
Yep.
school.
Awesome.
What a great story.
Awesome thing
I mean,
for
you're
them to
looking
do.
probably at like $1 million or more to refurbish the unsold school.
Absolutely,
It's a great story.
excellent story. And of course, the Unsold family, even after Wes's passing, is still involved and still trying to do wonderful things in our community. And I greatly appreciate. You know, Earl's got a similar one in New York. I didn't know that until recently. He's doing
Earl Monroe does
kind
the
of
same thing?
inspired by what
Earl.
Wes did. He started a similar concept up in New York, which is really cool.
Was Earl in for the CIAA? Did he?
He
get in?
did. He did. He came down for the CIAA. Yes, he was
They
down
had
in town.
some press release the
Yep.
other day that it was really a big success this first year.
And hopefully with a renovated arena. I'm still confused about the renovations, man. I started looking at some of the images they've sent out, and I'm like, it still looks, like, what are we doing if we're just putting a coat of paint on it and sprucing up? What really are we? Like, it still has the box shape.
Yeah.
Like, it's awful.
Well,
Like,
they're never going to be able to do away with the box. I mean, that would be hundreds of millions of dollars.
but like, what are we doing then? If this is what we're doing, I'm trying not to be too negative about it because but Frank has done an unbelievable job with that building since he took it over. Let's be straight about that. There is what they've managed to do is remarkable.
And look, I think what sports fans have to realize about this new plan, this refurbishment, is it's not geared. Baltimore, you're not getting an NHL hockey team or an NBA team. It's geared toward giving creature comfort to people that come to see concerts.
From
from
the outside, it looks kind of neat, right? You're like, oh, that's definitely more pleasant to look at than what we've seen before. I'll look forward to seeing that. But then you start seeing and this is what the hallway looks like, and that certainly looks more modernized.
Yeah.
But it's the seated area. Okay, that's the old seated area. This is what the new seated area is going to look like.
It's not
the
gonna
exact
be,
same.
You can't do anything to that stage
without
tearing. I mean, you're
and
talking about,
that's kind of my problem is what are we really doing? Why?
You know the famous story about that. Do you remember the actress, the late Dorothy Lamour? She was the famous femme fatale in all of the Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, the road to Rio, and all that. And she was gorgeous. She ended up, and I mean, every guy had a crush on her. She was gorgeous. She ended up marrying some wealthy guy here in Baltimore, and was a big muckety muck in the late 50s and 60s. And she was on the committee that sort of was making decisions about this building, and she wanted she wanted the stage that this would be a big help to the city of Baltimore to bring plays potentially and all that. And we ended up it ended up
60 years later. Here we are with the same effing stage.
You know the original discussions of the Baltimore Civic Center, which it was initially called when it opened in '61. The first discussions in city council history took place in 1906. That's when they started talking and debating about it. So it took 55 years to get that building. Yeah.
We have the same problems 116 years later. We have the exact same problems in our
60
city.
years later, and we're still at the albatross.
All right. Are you panicked about the Adley Rutschman thing? Are you? This is on the surface. 2 to 3 weeks, not the end of the world. The problem being,
I'm not panicked about it. It's just I feel. Look, Mike Elias is not the biggest warm and fuzzy guy. I mean, he's a sort of cold-blooded killer.
Yep.
He's calculating and all this. I just feel bad that some of the things he sort of counted on, like the Kerstad injury.
Heston Kerstad.
The myocarditis. And now this, and the pandemic overall. You just couldn't put more obstacles in the way of trying to rebuild and get some interest and all that. I was hopeful he was really going to make the opening day roster this year. Were you, Paul?
I think he was going to.
Yeah,
I think he was going to,
now.
but now there's no chance.
Yeah, now there's no chance of that happening. And Robinson Chirinos was a good pickup, a solid pickup to be the backup catcher on a team. And maybe catch 40 games or something this year if everything had gone right. But now, who knows?
I'm just guessing that you and I disagree about one particular. I don't know that you and I have talked about it just because we haven't been able to have as many of these conversations since the pandemic hit. I absolutely love and can't believe how much I love, because I was opposed to it wildly.
Right.
I love the extra inning rule. And when
I grew into loving it too.
Oh man, I'm thrilled to hear that.
I was on your show the other day.
Yeah, we talked about it.
And we talked about it, and I said, but who did I have on this past Monday night?
Was it Tim Kirkman?
Doug DeCinces.
Doug DeCinces.
That
was last week.
And we talked about it, and he kind of chuckled about when I brought it up, and I said, but Doug, I actually ended up loving it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. It's the best thing that baseball has done. And when the CBA came together and they were getting rid of it, I'm like, what in the F?
I
who,
totally agree.
Who wants it gone?
The only difference I would like to see, I probably would have liked, hockey has the 5-minute overtime before they go to the shootout. I probably would do 1 or 2 innings of normal baseball, and then
I've heard that from a lot of people.
A little bit more, but I understand.
We just don't want to do these marathon games. Yeah. There's nothing good about these marathon baseball games.
They're good if you're home and you hear about one. I've watched some of them that have just been. You're up at like 3 a.m. watching a game like between the Braves and the Mets that had 3 rain delays. There's just something romantic about it. But
we all talk about that night in Seattle where we all stayed up till 5 a.m. to watch the end of the Orioles game. I understand we have romantic feelings about a unique circumstance. Now, again, most people that have jobs literally can't do that.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about a very small percentage of us that either have the right job that allowed us to do it, or we're of a certain age that we were able to do it.
I understand
there's,
it, and I
There's
appreciate
no benefit at all to these marathon games.
And they said that they're revisiting it, so perhaps they will do an inning or two of regular baseball.
I don't know. I hope it's around in some form, and I fully understand why they would want to go to it immediately.
I just kept that.
I probably would have 1 inning that would. I probably would go to 10 because 11 innings sounds odd, 12 sounds odd. But I think 1 inning, if you said, hey, you get 1 inning to determine it the regular way, or else you go to this thing. So.
I wouldn't lose my mind if that's what they did. Yeah. I don't, you got 9 innings to play a bit. You played a whole baseball game. Right. If you couldn't determine a winner in an entire baseball game, let's go.
Yeah.
And as I keep saying, the best possible scenario is the one where I'm glued to my TV. I can't tune out. The moment I find out a game is going to extra innings, I can't look away. I have to watch this.
How many times did you watch it this past year, Glenn, where the team that goes first in extra innings scored a run, and you said, damn it. And then all of a sudden, the scoring a run it should be fairly easy to score 1 run.
Right.
And how many times you saw a team come back and win even if they fell behind by 2 runs in the top of the inning? I'd see them immediately somehow score the 1 run, and then because
it gets an inning going, because the pitcher's now worried about the runner on second base, and you might be able to work a walk because of it and get another runner on base and start. It's baseball. Yeah. It's not guys just walking up and swinging for home runs. Yeah. It's real, by God, baseball. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Are you convinced that the end of the shift will get us more action in baseball, or are you like so many convinced that it's not going to change the thought? Dan Duquette.
No, I think it definitely. Who
we had Duquette on the other day, and he's like,
didn't seem to think it would change much.
This is what's happened is we did not reward players for attempting to do things against the shift.
Right.
So there'll be a few more hits that drop in, but guys are still going to go up and swing for home runs because we're rewarding guys for swinging for home runs.
Yeah. I think it will definitely. I cannot remember the figure that I heard. It was 2 years ago. I was listening to an exhibit. It actually had to be in 2019, before the pandemic. I was listening to a preseason game on my Sirius radio, and it was a Tampa Bay game. And Dave, Andy Freed's partner,
Dave Wills.
Dave Wills, was talking about a stat that he had heard that, like in 2005 or something like that, the average left-handed hitter in the major leagues, I guess this took out Scribino's, but the average was hitting like 276 or 286. And you think about it, because they're facing mostly right-handed pitchers, because there's a predominance of right-handed pitchers. But that now that number had dropped in like 10 or 12 years to 236.
Yeah, I heard it's in the 230s. Yeah,
it was in the 230s. And you think about that. You know, Chris Davis, for all of us bashing Chris got mind-effed by the shift. You know, Chris Davis was a decent average hitter. You know,
the year he had 53 home runs, he had 286.
286, and his on-base percentage was always good, and he got a lot of hits to right field, you know. And then when they went to the shift, Chris Davis, his mind got whacked out that he was turned around, and every time he turned around, he was hitting 180.
I read an article 2 years ago that said that, and they interviewed some left-handed batters about the shift, and they said, we don't try to beat the shift. We try to hit the ball over the shift. Right. And I think that's why you see a guy like Rufnet Odor, Joey Gallo, who can't hit better than their weight. Chris Davis, whose lifetime average dropped to below 200, or maybe not that low, but you get what I'm saying, because they're trying to hit over it instead of beat it.
Yeah.
It's the old, you don't walk your way off the island concept that people talked about with Latin players, right? Like, you're not doing the smartest thing baseball-wise is not the thing that's going to get you big contracts. It's not the thing that's going to get you. You're not going to bunt your way to being a $100 million player. Right. It's never. There is no example of that. There's no one that you could point out and say, here's the guy. I guess Ichiro, right, is the one example of all time of the guy that was able to make a lot of money doing it. Yeah. Now, he also happened to have an absurd arm. I mean, Ichiro's one of one in that type of player. But that's it. There's one example of a guy doing those types of things that was able to make a lot of money and become a superstar in baseball.
You know what's an interesting thing, and we talked about it Saturday, Paul. I told you about this guy, and he'd be a good guest for either your show, The Bat Around, or for this show. Rick Straub. Do you know that name? He's a catching teacher.
Okay.
He I don't know what he does, whether that's what he does for his full living. I met him at Bill Bateman's one night after taping the TV show about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And he teaches young kids how to be catchers. You know, so their parents, if a kid loves catching, they hire him and he tutors them. This expanded base, the larger base, is going to make it much more difficult to throw out would-be base stealers because
there's going to be a little bit, just a little bit closer. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It's just a little bit closer.
It's an interesting topic. You know what they're going to have to do to combat that. But again, that will spike a little bit more interest. You'll probably have an uptick this year. Is the new base going into effect this year?
2023.
2023.
2023, along with the pitch clock and the ban of the shift.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I just am blown away the fact that the robo umpires to me, that will be the number one time differential thing in baseball, and they're so resistant to it. It's mind-boggling.
I'm pretty resistant to it myself. And it's not, there is a human element argument, but that's not even my main argument. My argument is that a ball that is clearly not a strike but nips the strike zone on its way to landing in the opposite batter's box could be called a strike, and I think that that's a little absurd.
See, to me, I can't recall how many times I saw Kevin Gausman get screwed on a call that should have been strike three, and his pitch count was in place, and he was pitching good, and all of a sudden he would fall apart by having to throw 8 or 9 more pitches to that batter, who eventually got on by a walk or a hit. And to me, there's nothing better you could do to the game of baseball to speed it up than have a predictable strike zone from game to game, from inning to inning, from night to night. Now we got Glenn Clark's strike zone on Monday
Hey,
night.
look,
Paul Valley's strike zone on Tuesday night. That's not the way the rule book is written. The rule book defines what is a strike.
And I get what you're saying, Paul, and I've said before, to me that's going to have to be collateral damage because I do think that it at some point there has to be uniform. I just don't, to what you're saying, I don't think batters are going to like it as much when it does go in, and I think that's their reluctance now.
I don't think Angel Hernandez is going to like it
in
as
short
much.
order, they should begin to be familiar with what's going to
This
be a strike.
This is the strike zone,
This
period.
is going to be the strike
period.
zone.
This is it.
Well,
This
and it's gonna be one of those things where if they're gonna do it, they're gonna have to implement it in spring training, and maybe like the All-Star game or something like that, and then they don't bring it into the regular season.
What it really needs to do is have it for a couple of years be in AAA, double A,
come up to the
triple
minors.
A.
I think that
they did it. They did it in one of the low A levels. They did it in
experimented with it in the Atlantic.
The Atlantic League for sure.
Yeah,
they did
it's
it.
Gotta, but I just hope they don't toss it aside because nobody discusses what that will do to time a game. When a batter knows I can't work the count, when a catcher knows he can't cheat, that's what pitch framing is.
Yep.
Cheating.
Yep. 100%. It's become an art, and we've paid people for it because they're so good at pitch framing. All right, sir, we got to wind down. We're going to talk to. It's 12:04. Yeah,
we
got
went 45,
something like
minutes.
that. Well, we got to talk to Jalen Gabiddon before we wrap up the show. Yale
It's good
basketball
seeing
player
you
from
guys
Glenelg.
Again, we'll try and do this a little bit more often.
Again, later tonight.
Maddie
Brightman.
She's a content producer for the Scott Van Pelt Show, daughter of our good friend T.J. Brightman of the Orioles. Tomorrow afternoon, Luke Jackson and I will confer with Yahoo Blackwell, who's fighting some gentleman who he says he's going to take out pretty quickly down in the Dominican Republic. That fight, Yahoo was born in Africa.
Yep.
But he's lived in Baltimore since he was 2 years old.
Very
so
cool.
It's a good local story. We'll have him on tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Facebook Live, YouTube. And then Monday night, former Orioles skipper Dave Tremblay. We'll talk to him about all this stuff.
At Stan the Fan on Twitter is how you follow him. Great to see you, my friend.
I'll be on with the baseball.
Yeah, on the Bat-Around on
guys
Saturday morning.
at
Absolutely.
10:45-ish. Yeah.
Excellent.
See you guys.
Stan the Fan,
Tennessee.
appreciate
Go
you.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I got bad news. They're losing to Longwood. Let's get a tidbit quickly. Tidbit of the day is brought. You can hang out for this if you want to hang out for this. Tidbit's brought to you by Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40 a.m. Simply the Bets in partnership with, of course, the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Get you set up for the week of betting. Also, every other Thursday, Weekend at Bookies, which returns next week. Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40.
All right, so I did this last night. And this morning driving in here, I was thinking, I think I did something similar to this, but not quite this, back in October. So hopefully you don't remember. All right, so yesterday it was announced that Za'Darius Smith had reached an agreement to rejoin the Baltimore Ravens, a team that drafted him in the 4th round in 2015. The agreement was 4 years, $35 million to bring the pass rusher back home after he left the team for the Packers following the 2018 season. When healthy, Smith is considered one of the elite pass rushers in the game, tallying 13.5 and 12.5 sacks his first 2 seasons in Green Bay before the back injury sidelined him last year. Of course, Smith's career high in sacks with the Ravens was 8.5 in 2018, his final season in Baltimore, which ultimately got him paid. In Ravens history, only 7 players have even tallied 10 sacks in a season, the feat accomplished 16 times in total. Who were those players and which ones did it more than once?
Terrell Suggs.
Terrell Suggs is number 1 on the list. How many times?
5.
7 times.
Okay. Michael McCrary.
Michael McCrary, how many times?
Twice.
Twice, correct. Only one more person did it multiple times.
I don't think Paul Kruger did it once.
Nope.
He didn't get to 10?
No, he had 9.
It was 9, really?
9,
I could have sworn
like
it was 10. Peter Boulware.
Peter Boulware, how many times?
3 times.
3 times is correct. Now, the last 4 guys have only done it once.
Judon got to 10, didn't he?
No. His career high in Baltimore was 9.
Doomerville.
He has the most in the Ravens history, 17.
10. Can't really fluke your way to 10. I'll still say Adalius got there.
He did. That is correct. 2 left.
How about yikes. Did Trevor? No, Trevor. I don't think he did. Trevor Price.
He did. I think he had
Did
like
he
13.
really?
Yeah.
Did he really?
That one, his first year in Baltimore.
I know, but I don't remember it being that good. And the other one would be.
I don't know if I'd be surprised or not that you got this.
Man.
He's a name that you remember.
Rob Burnett.
Rob Burnett.
Really?
Nicely done. Nicely done.
All right. I don't remember him getting but sure. I mean, the defense was unbelievable at that point, so why not? All right, very good.
Trevor Price had 13 in 2006.
That's remarkable. Tidbit was also brought to you by the print issue of Pressbox, which is, of course, still available right now for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and at the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox. Or read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Gary Williams on the cover as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of their run to the 2002 National Championship. Go pick up your print issue of Pressbox right now or read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. Tubular is brought to you by the Baltimore Police Department. You know, maybe you're thinking about a new path in life. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org. Here's what's coming up. Obviously, basketball is the answer as to what's coming up. The NCAA Tournament gets underway momentarily. Games throughout the day on all four networks. CBS in order. Michigan, Colorado State, coming up in 5 minutes. Longwood, Tennessee, St. Peter's, Kentucky, San Francisco, Murray State. True TV in order starting at 12:40. South Dakota State, Providence, Richmond, Iowa, Creighton, San Diego State, Texas Southern, Kansas, TNT in order starting at 1:45. Memphis, Boise State, Georgia State, Gonzaga, New Mexico State, Yukon, Vermont, Arkansas. TBS in order starting at 2. Norfolk State, Baylor, Marquette, North Carolina, Indiana, St. Mary's, Akron, UCLA. The Mount St. Mary's women play Longwood tonight at 7 on ESPN2 in the first 4 in the women's tournament. NBC Sports Washington Capitals, Blue Jackets 7, ESPN Plus and Hulu, Sharks, Kings at 10, NBA TV, Pistons, Magic at 7. ESPN's got the NCAA Wrestling Championships tonight at 7. Round 1 of the PGA Valspar at 2 on Golf Channel. Indian Wells continues on Tennis Channel at 2. Spring training baseball on MLB Network today. Twins, Red Sox at 1, White Sox, Cubs at 4. And that's about all you need to know sports-wise. Non-sports-wise, highlights. We need to hear you, for sure.
Yeah, right. Billy Crystal is going to be on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon this evening. You have Jersey Shore Family Vacation, Glenn's favorite reality TV
Master
show.
Chef Jr. is back tonight. That's very important.
Master Chef Jr. at 8
very
o'clock
important.
on Fox.
I'm looking forward to the Welcome to Flatch as well. I'm gonna give that a look.
It looks like it could be a fun comedy.
What's her face? Who was on The Boys? Is one of the stars of that.
Okay.
And what else? She was in another show I liked, and I can't even think of that was on FX called You're the Worst. I can't think of what this young lady's name is, and I feel bad about that.
By the way, The Boys are coming back, I think, in June.
Despite the fact that Homelander, the guy that plays Homelander, he's run into a bit of troubles.
Really?
Nothing awful.
Like Marilyn Manson troubles?
No,
I looked him up last night.
No, not that. More like a bar fight, I think is.
No way.
Yeah, right. It seems very unlikely. Aya Cash is her name. She's excellent. I like her a great deal.
On Netflix, Rescued by Ruby and Soiled, 2 new Netflix series. And then in DMZ original series premiere, Jellystone original series series season 2 premiere, and Minx all on HBO Max.
Jellystone, like, hey, booby? Like that? Like that's what we're dealing with?
That's Yellowstone.
I thought they were Jellystone. Yellowstone is Yellowstone. I'm pretty sure that was Jellystone.
You may be right.
Yeah,
I may be crazy.
Hey, boo-boo. I'm
hey,
pretty
boo-boo.
sure that's what we're talking about.
Baskets.
All right. Hey, quickly, know the risks and have a plan before you start gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. Thanks today to Stan the Fan. Thanks also to Danny Singletary from that Coppin's team that's celebrating the 25th anniversary of the win over South Carolina. Thanks to Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, and thanks as well to Jalen Gabiddon, who we're about to hear from Yale. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Archives.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Special hours tomorrow, 9 to 11 a.m. before I head down to the casino. Christopher Hinton from Michigan, who's the son of former Baltimore Colt Chris Hinton, of course, famously the other side of the John Elway deal. He is one of the top draft prospects this year. He's going to join us tomorrow, and Stuff and Things tomorrow as well. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including
Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Baltimore Police Department, Grade 8's Memorabilia, Live Casino and Hotel, Underdog Fantasy Football, Blue Line K9, your local Toyota dealer, and buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Paul. Follow him on Twitter at Paul Valley III. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Glenn Clark Radio. Thank you for filling the brackets. Enjoy the madness. Have a great Thursday night. Go Mountain Women. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. We wrap up today's show. We had to do this a little bit earlier on, but an awesome opportunity to catch up with a genius who happens to also have been born in Baltimore and went to Glenelg. He's Jalen Gabiddon from Yale. They're getting ready to play Purdue. Listen to that right here as we wind down on GCR. Well, it's a pleasure now to be joined here on GCR by a young man who spent some time down our way at Glenelg Country School and then ended up at Yale, where he's had an incredible career, is getting ready for the NCAA Tournament tomorrow afternoon against Purdue. But on top of that, he's already on to, like, even bigger and better things, which I guess makes sense when you're at Yale. As he has gone into the sports tech world, he's going to tell us all about Launchpad. He's Jalen Gabiddon, and he's with us now here on the show. Jalen, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Thanks for having me, Glenn. Excited to be here.
Man, it's great to chat with you. I know it's a really exciting time for you and your team right now. We will get to that. If I could go a step before I get to Launchpad, let me go back even further. You're from Harrisburg.
Yep.
You spent most of your life there. How did you end up down here in our neck of the woods wrapping up your high school career at Glenelg Country School?
Well, interesting story. I was actually born in Baltimore. So
Wow.
I was born a few minutes from Mount St. Joseph's High School. And so we moved when I was like 1 to Harrisburg. And so my parents had lived in Baltimore for a long period of time. And so when I was a senior in high school, well, going into my senior year, my uncle still lives in Laurel, Maryland.
Okay.
And so my cousin, who was in 3rd or 4th grade at the time, maybe younger, maybe 1st grade.
Okay.
I don't remember, but she went to Glenelg Country School. And so because of that, we were familiar with the school, and my uncle was like, they're in the MIAA, like they're playing some of the top teams, like, and so I actually lived with my uncle for that full year.
Wow.
And so commuted from my uncle's house to Glenelg.
Did you know at that point that you were going to end up at Yale, or did that experience help you in getting that opportunity to end up somewhere like Yale?
So I actually had all my Division I offers before I went to Glenelg Country School.
Okay.
So I'm mostly through AAU because my old high school was a lot smaller. We had like 20 kids in my grade. And so the basketball competition wasn't like preparing me enough for what I was going to face in college. And so through AAU, obviously had the offers and through camps and such. And so I committed to go to Glenelg June of 2016.
Okay.
And then I committed to Yale August of 2016.
Man.
So like 2 months later, I committed to Yale.
All right, but we're still claiming you. That's the way this is going to go, Jalen. You're too smart. You're too accomplished. You're too talented. They can try to claim in Harrisburg, but you were born here and you went to Glenelg, so we're taking you as one of ours. You're one of ours, and we're rooting for you now. All right, because of that. Is that okay?
That's fair. That year in Glenelg changed a lot for me basketball-wise. I had never really faced consistently a lot of the same competition. I had a great summer with them that helped prepare me for my junior year of AAU, where like a lot of the offers were closer, were kind of like, we like you, whatever, became a lot stronger because of kind of the way I developed over that summer, including Yale. And so, they were happy to take me, I think.
It seems like it's worked out okay. It seems like it's been all right. He's Jalen Gabiddon. He's with us here on GCR. We're going to get to your team. You're with us because I found out about this thing that you're doing called Launchpad. And, I can't be all that surprised that someone who's got a Yale education is already so far ahead of the rest of the world and coming up with ideas and concepts. Mm-hmm. But can you tell me about what Launchpad is all about and how you ended up getting into the sports tech world?
Yeah, for sure. So, Launchpad is like, it's in the realm of fitness apps, right? Like you think of fitness apps, I think of things that, let's get some cardio in, let's get some HIIT workouts in, like lose calories, burn calories, lose weight, and so when me and my team were, talking about the realm of possibilities out there for potential ideas, there was a big gap in accessibility to training, to be more explosive, to be a better athlete, right? Like if you were in high school and outside of going to a trainer where you're paying $60 an hour, there's not really much to fall back on how to become a better athlete. And so that's where the idea for Launchpad was born, and that we're building this app that helps train athletes to be more explosive, right? And so we're doing that through a variety of ways. And obviously, like one of my partners, Doug Goldstein, is an incredible physical therapist, and he's a trainer to dozens of NFL athletes. You know, I'm not going to get into specific names for, you know, confidentiality reasons, but you know, he's pretty well tapped into the Denver network, and so he's a guru when it comes to being athletic. You know, he saved my career. You know, I had health problems, and you know, got my knees right, got my athleticism right, and obviously, you know, my senior year had a big year on the court. You know, a large part in due to working with him and on Launchpad. So he's building the programs on the app, and so as you're on the app, my job is to build a lot of AI interactivity with the app. So as you're training, what you're like, basically the way it works in a nutshell is you have your phone, you have the app on your phone, and it takes you through your workout.
Okay.
And if let's say you're doing, you know, you have like squats, right?
Can I go ahead and download it to play along as we do this? Is it available?
Not yet. It'll be coming out in about coming out in a month.
Okay.
So tune in the next month.
All right.
And so I have a tablet with some of the AI interactivity. Like we could test your vertical jump with it. We can measure, like we can count your reps. We can see how fast you're doing your reps. So like if you're trying to be explosive, you got to move weight fast, right? We're not trying to just load up 500 pounds in the back squat and go really slow. Like if you want to be fast, you got to move weight fast. So we built in like AI models that can track how fast you're actually moving when you're doing your reps to make sure that you're optimizing your training to become explosive.
Wow.
So that's what I spend most of my time doing over the past year.
That's incredible, bro. That's really incredible. The app is called Launchpad. Did you know this is when you arrived at Yale, were you thinking about like getting into this type of world? Was basketball your priority? Like what was the thought process, and how did you get to a place you said, yeah, I'm a young man. I want to go ahead and throw my name, or I want to get into the fitness app world. I want to go ahead even before I'm 25 years old and try to become, you know, an entrepreneur and get into this type of space?
I mean, coming into college, you know, like every hooper, I was trying to go pro, you know, and, you know, my perspective changed a lot when I broke my foot 3 times when I was a freshman, and I didn't get to touch the floor. I was hurt the whole year. So, you know, I decided to major in computer science, something that piqued my interest. And so I actually interned at Google twice, my sophomore and junior years. And so that got me into like the software world, but I never really had an entrepreneurial, like, you know, penchant for it necessarily. And so during COVID, like I decided, you know, my coach was trying to get everyone to take gap years because in the Ivy League, you can't play as a graduate student. And so if I just graduated my senior year, my career at Yale would be done. And so I decided to take a year off of school entirely so that I could continue playing at Yale. And, you know, my coach connected me by chance with an alumni who was in startups because, you know, I was trying to figure out what my next path in life was because I was planning to graduate and be done. And, you know, he was running his former business, which is, you know, B2B sales or B2B, like, you know, consumer insights, you know, like marketplace research. And, you know, instead of talking to me about that, he was like, you know, I'm thinking about leaving my former business, you know, it's in a good place. And I'm starting this new thing with my friend, Doug. And like, you know, I think he'd be much more interested in talking about this, you know, because he was a former Yale basketball player. And so we got connected through that. And next thing I knew, I moved into his basement. I met him like in July, and I moved into his basement with his wife and kids, like the end of August, and was there for a full year in his basement working on this with him.
Wow, man. Wow. What a different, what a thought, bro. Like you went for it. Like really went for it, man. That's incredible.
COVID was a weird time, you know, like peak COVID was like, it was almost like a dream of sorts, and like how time kind of flew by. But like I was living in Denver. I had never met him before. The first time I ever met him was on Zoom. And the next thing I knew, I was playing with his, you know, 3 and 5 year old in the basement.
Oh, that's cool. It's a cool story, man. That's a really, really cool story. How this, again, the Launchpad app, which was going to be available in about a month.
In about a month.
And it's incredible, man, the path that you've taken. For those that don't remember, of course, the Ivy League didn't play basketball a year ago, and so that's the reason why, you know, Jalen and his teammates were asked to take that gap year. That's incredible stuff. Jalen Gabiddon is with us. Again, born in Baltimore, from Glenelg High School, country school, and what a year, as you pointed out, that you guys have had, being back in the NCAA tournament, got to watch some of the title game on Sunday. What does it mean for you? And you guys came so close to getting a win the last time in 2019 in the NCAA tournament. How much is that in your mind as you guys get ready to do it again here this year?
A lot, unfortunately, like I played about 10 minutes a game that year off the bench, and in the last 10 games of the season, I actually had to sit with injury. And so like I was able to watch, it hurt watching from the sidelines, obviously I was as happy as anyone in the world, we're in March Madness, but, I never forgot what it was like, that environment, that game, the crowd, the intensity of it, the moment. And so, one of my other teammates who played in the game, he and I were talking like, we're not satisfied with just making it this time. We're not satisfied with just making it. We want to win the game. And like we came close last time, we fell short, but our celebration after Sunday was short lived. Like we gave ourselves the day on Sunday to enjoy it. Monday we took the day off for practice, and today we're not thinking about anything that happened this whole year so far.
Sure.
Like it's all focused on winning that game because we don't want a participation trophy, right? Like thanks for coming. Like we're here to win.
Right.
So we'll be ready on Friday.
What's it gonna mean to you, Jalen, to be on the floor in an NCAA tournament game as someone obviously who's got your sights set on bigger things, as someone who's had an interesting path here, and who didn't get to be a part of it in 2019? What will it mean for you? Again, no matter the result, but just to step on the floor and play in the NCAA tournament.
I mean, it's gonna mean the world. I mean, it's a long time coming. Growing up in Harrisburg, the school I went to was so small. I've been disrespected my entire life, from a basketball perspective. I've gotten no respect from press, media, other players in the area, all those things. And so, just knowing that, I stuck to my game plan. I took the road less traveled and just, and made it to the dance, and we'll be on the floor and being able to represent, everyone who's helped me along the way means so much to me, and it's every kid's dream. Like every child basketball player's dream is to be in March Madness. And, it's my coach, we were at Harvard for the Ivy League tournament. My coach looked up at the banner and told us, Harvard had an incredible run where they won multiple years straight, and they've had some of the most talented players in the Ivy League since, but, you never know when the last chance you'll have is in a program. Like you'll never know when that run ends or when it's time for the run to begin. And so you just never know. And so to really embrace the moment, and that we've done some of these specials, something that like I will always look back on and be like proud that I was a contributor on that team.
A significant contributor, yeah. a big part of the reason why you guys are in this position, which is a big deal, man. Again, the game is Friday afternoon, and they'll be taking on Purdue. And what an opportunity it is for Jalen Gabiddon and his teammates to try to go shock the world and advance on to the second round of the tournament. Jalen, the pressure that comes with being at a place like Yale, beyond basketball, right, and maybe guiding you to where it is that you are now. How much of that did you feel when you first got there? Was there ever a moment where you looked around like, do I belong here? And, obviously you're far smarter than I. I would feel that way every day that I was on a campus like that. Did you ever have feelings like that? And how much did just that experience drive you to get to this place where you're entering a new world and a business startup and things along those lines?
It's a great question. This is a double-edged sword. I got hurt my first year, so while I wasn't able to play, that also gave me a lot of opportunity to set myself a great foundation academically.
Yep.
Where I had a lot of time and focus to spend on schoolwork. Figure out where a lot of athletes come in. It's a lot. You have practices, lifts, games, travel. I traveled. I went to practices, but I didn't participate, obviously. So on the road, I was just doing homework on the bus or in the hotel because I wasn't worried about playing. And so, where for some people that is a big, shock factor of being on campus, or there's non-athletes have all day to focus and on their schoolwork and get these things done.
And you probably need that much given what it is that you guys are doing.
So it's definitely a lot, but you kind of get used to it, and you kind of it's kind of a shared struggle, I guess I call it. We find kind of purpose in complaining about midterms amongst the team. Like we have practice, coaches run it, coaches trying to kill us with practices, we got midterms, and that actually, builds a sense of like camaraderie amongst the team. it's really enjoyable, and it's one of the things I'm going to miss the most in general. Is like going through it sometimes with your boys, with your brothers, like you're all struggling to get through midterms. I've had exams on game day where it's like you got to take the exam for game day, and then you're coming to game day like mentally fried.
Wow.
And then you have to go out and play and compete. Like guys after the Sunday game were like, I have an exam. Multiple guys had exams yesterday. Like I had problems. I had like reading responses due Sunday night.
You're in the NCAA tournament this week. No offense to any of these other schools. You think they're doing it those places? You think at Purdue they're like, hey, we got to make sure we focus on exams this week.
I know, like I have a meeting about I have a senior thesis, of meetings this week. I have some progress to report on next week. So, life doesn't stop.
Wow.
It just doesn't stop. And the next thing you know, we're tipping off, right? And that's kind of the weirdest part about it all.
That's cool, man. That's really, really cool. All right, last one. Who was your favorite guy? You mentioned that year you spent in the MIAA. Was there someone that you got to go against during the course of that year individually that still you remember that night, you remember that game, you remember that matchup that meant a lot to you, that helped sharpen you as you made the transition to the college level?
So I played against him in AAU multiple times. And so like I never really talked to him, but Daryl Morcell from Mount St. Joseph.
Yeah, and Marquette now.
Yeah, I mean he's having an incredible year. He was one of the people that like going up against made me realize like I can compete at this level. Because I had such a high opinion of him, and I played him in AAU. He played for Team Mello multiple times.
Yep.
We've gone at it before, but in high school, having that competition where we were matched up with each other, going at it he's the guy that I probably remember the most, having the most respect for as a player on the court.
It's cool.
And they beat us twice, so
that team was loaded, man. Like they were really.
I have a picture of Jalen Smith just punching my dog. Like I tried to punch it on him, and he just obliterated me. And I do have a picture of him beating me at the rim, and that's
hey man, there's
nothing
to be ashamed of. That dude, he's killing it in the NBA now. Like it probably happened to quite a few people going up against Jalen Smith. Hey, Jalen Gabiddon, what social media, the app, what all can we plug for you? Where can people find out more about you, about Launchpad, all of those things?
For sure, give us a follow on Instagram at Launchpad Fit. That's where we're starting to, share some of the initial like videos, previews, things like that. They're going to be coming there on our website, launchpad.fit. So you can go to www.launchpad.fit. Our website's going to be up in the next probably 2 weeks. But right now, you can go in there and put your phone number in, and we'll send you a link for early access when that's available. And so, check it out. And if you're really looking to get your balance right, I promise you, there's no better place to go.
You got
There's nowhere else.
You got a lot of work to do on me personally. You got a lot of work. You're gonna be starting from a really low level.
Hey, if you're trying to get your balance right, it don't matter who you are, how old you are. Have you played sports before?
I got 7 and 4-year-old sons I got to keep up with that are playing lacrosse and soccer and all those things. So I got to try to keep up with them a little bit. This might be for me.
It's 100% for you, and it's going to be for them too when they're ready.
I love it, man. Jalen Gabiddon, so happy for you, dude. Congratulations on everything that you've already accomplished, and please go get them against Purdue. I'm putting you through in my bracket. I'm doing it. I'm calling for it because I'm going to be rooting for it. And I want to enjoy it. Looking forward to seeing you out there tomorrow afternoon. Jalen, congratulations. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Thanks, you, Glenn.